This broadcast of the NLRL Sunday League is brought to you by Malwa Transport, oversized cargo and trucking logistics specialists of Quebec. Visit their website on www.malwa-transport.ca. Good evening, race fans, and welcome back to TRTN for tonight's coverage of the season finale, round 10 of the NLRL Sunday League, powered by Malwa Transport, season 5, live exclusively here on TRTN. As always, I am Regan Clark, and you join us here in the English North, here in Cheshire, on the outskirts of Little Budworth, at the site of the Oulton estate, here at the Oulton Park Circuit. Particularly the international configuration. Founded in 1953, comprised of 17 turns and just under 2.7 miles of FIA Grade 3, the lands surrounding the Oulton estate were many a thing in the last couple of centuries. Farmland, parkland, military garrisons, and now the site of one of the hidden jewels of British motorsports. It sees racing from the British Touring Car Championship, British GT, British Superbikes and TCR UK, and also saw open wheel racing from GB3 as late as 2024. And that was a descendant of the British F3 type. And that was later carried on by the folks here at Motorsports Vision, the owners of this circuit, and many circuits that we have seen over the last couple of seasons here on TRTN. We not long visited another fantastic venue of theirs, the Donington Park Circuit. But taking a look onto the calendar for today, we are here at the last stop. This is where it all comes down on two championship fronts, the rookies and the overall drivers. Last week in Monza, we saw Euro Titans take the crown to become the manufacturers or teams champion for this season. And taking a look back through the last couple of teams to have done so in this championship, they joined the ranks of the third team to have won in the Teams Championship since its inception at Season 3 of the Sunday League. Malwa Racing was the champions then. Velocity Racing Team via a single driver act there of Melvin Milliston for Season 4's Teams Championship, and now Euro Titans joins the fray with their lineup comprised of Cas van Velzen, Carlos Deege, Kieran Rodd, Brooklyn Donkin, Alan Alexander, Ben Meredith and Ian Skeen. As we see here with Cas van Velzen, it's quiet from the pit lane as things boil down to a 17-point gap between himself and Carlos Deege after last week saw Deege onto the winning charts once again, picking up on his fourth in this season. Taking a look into the championship standings, Van Velzen sits with 284 points coming into Oulton Park today, 17 points up the road from Carlos Deege in second. Kieran Rodd in third place with Ian Skeen up to fourth. Alan Alexander at the back of the top five, 149.5 points, a half-point gap between Skeen and Alexander at this time. In a joint sixth place, Zolt Beefgartner and Brooklyn Donkin. Behind them in eighth place, Ben Meredith with 109 points. In ninth place is Ellie Pocket with 105. And then rounding out the top 10 is Fake Galaxy, following a vehicle swap, going away from Ford and over to Audi. Taking a look into the other championship standings here, getting a look into the teams. Of course, that was wrapped up last week in Monza, where Euro Titans solidified the crown for the team's championship. Looking into the rookies, however, tells a different story here. We're looking at a currently 34-point gap between Kieran Rodd and Carlos Deege at the front of the field. So they still have the opportunity to wrap up the rookies tonight, as their necessary points gap would have been upwards of 48 points to wrap up the championship last round. Ben Meredith in third with Ellie Pocket now up to fourth. Fake Galaxy drops down to the back of the top five after his vehicle swap to Audi. Teo Vlasov in sixth with Yaguta Helmi in seventh. Konstantinos Chitos in eighth. And then rounding out the top 10, a joint ninth between Charlie Harker and Samuel Bell. Taking a look into tonight's regs for today, we have the endurance format for the last round of the championship. 90 minutes of racing then to come up later on today, but the same format as always, 10 minutes of free practice, of which we're in the middle of at the moment, and 20 minutes of qualifying coming up around the corner. A single mandatory pit stop for an open strategy minimum 3.2 seconds of refueling time. So as close as we'll get in this race to a stop and drop strategy. Taking a look into success ballasts after round 9 sees Carlos Deege now heaviest in class, 24 kilos heavier than factory weight, and what any BOP would have told him different. Cas van Velzen now second heaviest with 21 kilos. So the two would-be championship chargers find themselves heavier than everyone here in this category, with Tyler Vermack currently with 12 kilos, Fake Galaxy with 11, Zolt Beefgartner with 7, Kieran Rodd with 6, Michael Harris with 5, Ellie Pocket also with 5, and same story for Ian Skeen and Alan Alexander, all with 5 kilos, Ben Meredith with a single kilo. Taking a look after 54 races in this series sees another win for Carlos Disch. That's now our third new race winner of this season. Of course, we saw his first 2 victories in Bathurst earlier in round 4. Now we get to see him pick up on his 4th after a 3rd victory earlier in the season at the circuit Paul Ricard. And that caps off what was the brand new victories for Michael Harris and Fake Galaxy in the last 2 weeks before round 9. Taking a look then back into the session, and it's still quiet here from Van Velzen. He's been staying in the pit lane, contemplating the road ahead, as we only find ourselves here in the scope of some 9 cars on the field here during free practice. It is a confusing state of affairs to know where the rest of the grid might be, because this really has boiled down what was gearing up to be a fantastic fight for the end of this season. Nonetheless, our 2 main players are involved, Van Velzen and Carlos Disch. Kieran Rodd also involved there for the charge of the rookies. They currently mark the 2 fastest and only times of the session so far, with Van Velzen 3rd and Beefgartner currently in a provisional 4th, though lap in the trap. We see a brand new joining here is Clement Quentin-Lotrom in the number 511 Honda joining the fray. We see here yet another alias of Hayden Prodger. This is Lord Hesketh Prodsworth the 27th in a gold-clad Bentley Continental. I mean, we're bordering on the insane now when it comes to these new names coming in from the Prodger dynasty, as we've dubbed it. The 222 out on track at the moment now with Bentley away from Reiter Engineering. Tyler Vermack on the grid with the number 8. And we see here a brand new driver as well, Dimitri McLeon with McLeon UA Racing. The number 77 Mercedes on the grid for the final round of the championship. Ben Hart makes the 9th driver in this session so far. This is definitely a confusing state of affairs. And now we start to see that number on the rise. Ben Cheeseman into the session here to make 10 cars before we get in towards qualifying. But before we do, let's get a quick glance over at the balance of performance for today, staying on board with Carlos Disch as he continues to lap around Oulton Park. We find that in the case of Ford, they're not heaviest in class, but they are a joint 2nd heaviest with Lamborghini with 9 kilos on both the Mustang and the Huracan. It's Aston Martin, one of the local manufacturers to the field here, to find themselves with a staggering 20 kilo ballast for the run in towards round 10. Looking into the negatives, Honda with a single kilo off, BMW with 2. Oh, a big hit from the wall there off of the exit of the island bend in towards Shell Oils for Carlos Disch. We'll go on board now with Kieran Rodd for the duration of this session. Looking then further into the negatives, we find ourselves with McLaren with 3 kilos off, Mercedes with 4. Same story for Porsche. And then behind them, Audi with 6 kilos off on factory weight. That would have been driven by Fake Galaxy, but as of currently, a no-show to this grid. Very, very mysterious indeed. Ferrari with 11 kilos off and Lexus with 32. It's Bentley, lightest in class, the Continental with 36 kilos off. So that'll be fantastic news for the 222. As for Lexus, we've just seen their Zolt Beefgartner go 3rd fastest in free practice, coming up in towards qualifying. Sadly, no predictions to come with them due to just such a short grid. And it is a bit bizarre to see the grid this sparse, I would say, coming into this last round. But oh well, you know, you go to war with what you have, and if we only have 10 cars, this is going to be, albeit a bit of a sparse 90 minutes of racing to follow, but there are heavy implications surrounding it. And really, when you boil it down to the championship talks here, there are only 3 drivers still involved. One across 2 fronts here, being Carlos Disch. He's set to fight tonight for the Rookies Championship and possibly for the overall Drivers Championship. Now, the points gap between himself and the Ford to his left-hand side, our right-hand side, that being Kieran Rodd, is a great deal larger than the gap he shares between himself and Cas van Velzen down at the end of the paddock at the moment. But there are still fronts to be fought on, 2 of which in today's session. Will there be any conflict of interest, considering that all 3 prospective championship chargers are from the same team now, with that recent signing of Carlos Disch over to Euro Titans earlier in the season? Well, at the end of free practice, we now are up to 11 cars, as making a fashionably late entrance to the session is Alan Alexander, who we saw not too long ago last season take a fantastic win in South Africa. The first ever rookie to do so since the inception of the rookies category. And he won in brilliant fashion in pouring wet conditions in Midrand, South Africa at the Grand Prix circuit Kyalami earlier last season.
Green light, give it all you can.
We've seen then 20 minutes of qualifying underway, and it's a bit of a slow start to the field. We see Carlos Dies now turning to face his rival as Cas van Velzen does his best impression of Carlos Dies. Do I believe that they are going to do something that... I mean, they are rolling backwards. You know what happens when you roll backwards in the paddock? What ends up happening is you end up getting disqualified. Would that be the case here? Are they both looking to get themselves disqualified to start from the back? I mean, it would certainly be a bizarre state of affairs. I mean, this whole thing seems to have come apart integrity-wise at the seams, as we do see rolling backwards to the end of the pit lane now. Going the wrong way onto the track is Carlos Dies. Continuing to drive backwards. I mean, how long is this going to go on for before he gets disqualified? And there you see it, the 545 has been disqualified from the session. Will there be the same story here for that 314? So it would appear both of the leaders of the overall Drivers' Championship are doing this on purpose. They will both start from the back. Now, this shakes up our talks of the current championship odds. Taking a look here to our right-hand side to see that originally it was a case where we'd expect both of them to have knocked things out over the course of qualifying and figured themselves up towards that front of the field. The current points gap, 17 points. For Van Velzen to become championship, he has to finish ahead of Dies at all costs. If Dies manages to win this race, he has to finish in at least third place with no fastest lap, or at least fourth with the fastest lap. For Dies to become champion, he has to outscore Van Velzen by 18 points. And needs to finish ahead of Van Velzen at all costs. So a very, very surprising turn of events we've seen at the start of this qualifying session. Looking to go and catch on board then with the number 8, Tyler Vermaak, currently on his flying lap as he makes his way down in towards Sector 2 as we speak. That real sudden change over the course of quali has undone a lot of our expectations of what to have expected coming into this session. So we'll go and catch on board here with the McLaren as he continues to lap the track. Looking to catch on board here with Tyler Vermaak. Down through towards Britain's turns 7, 8 and 9. One of, looking here, 2 chicanes on this circuit, all in the same sector, of course, as we run up the hilltop straight in towards Hislop's at turns 10, 11 and 12. They originally had somewhat of a bet going on in some of the other series we've been covering at some of these MSV circuits, because they have what they dubbed was the barrel, and that's that sort of triple set of tyres we saw on the inside of Hislop's. There's a very similar thing set up in Donington down at the S's. And there was sort of a running bet on how long it would take before that would be punted out of the track. I'd give it about 3 laps here with these drivers. According to Race Control, 10 sign-outs, 37 sign-ups, so we should, logically speaking, have 27 cars. Now, I think where that's gone wrong is when the initial calendar was released, and this is at least one running theory, when the initial calendar was released, the dates showed that really this season should have wrapped up 2 weeks ago. You can see here is the up-to-date calendar of that. We've undergone a few delays over the last couple of weeks with technical troubles and other external troubles alongside it, as well as the introduction of the Easter break, which has sort of brought this forward now to the 26th, when originally the season was going to end, I believe, 2 weeks ago on the 12th of April. That might be where a lot of people are finding themselves caught out by this sudden change in the sort of lineup logistics. Watching here with Vermaak currently fastest in the session, so it's been a bit of an abrupt start here to the qualifying session. Now Kieran Rodd goes second fastest. Now it is worth pointing out, Rodd is still within a chance here to fight for the Rookies Championship, especially given the fact he's currently lining up an insurmountably large amount of the grid up from his rival Carlos Dies. You see here with Lord Hesketh Prodsworth, the 27th, and I am going to be calling him that every single time. Currently now second in the session, 383 thousandths off of Tyler Vermaak. And his lordship in the 222. I mean, it's comedic at this point. He's going for some really on-the-nose comedy. I mean, he's gone, in the last couple of weeks, he's operated as Haydenio Progino, that being Hayden Progen's Italian cousin. Then the week after that, it was Hayden van der Progen, his Dutch cousin. Very international bloodline, the Proger family. And then we see now his, I can only imagine, oil baron slash land and real estate baron I don't know, maybe uncle at this point, since he's got a lordship. That's not really something you see a lot of younger people getting. So let me see, Lord Hesketh Prodsworth, the 27th. Primary financier of Prodger's racing endeavours, as it would seem. Out through Hislops. Bit of a step out there on the rear end, but the Bentley, of course, a lot lighter than it normally would be coming into today's session. Second lightest under BOP. Actually, no, lightest under BOP. Sorry, we were thinking of Lexus there. Currently only 383 thousandths off. This could very well present, in the absence of that front row lockout by the two budding championship rivals of Van Velzen and Diesch. We are seeing here what could very well represent Lord Hesketh Prodsworth, the 27th, first chance at a race win. Alternatively, for Tyler Vermack, it could represent yet another to add to his growing list of victories. We now see across the line Prodsworth fastest by 310 thousandths of a second. Third fastest now is Alt Beefgartner with Lexus. That pushes Kieran Rod down to fourth, but division first as things would stand right now. You see Ben Hart currently in fifth, Ben Cheeseman in sixth, the two five-star esports cars on the way down through to Hislops. Swapping hands there on track. Clement Quentin Ultram running into trouble with Honda. Now, it's a rare sight to see the NSX on any grid, and I think that's for good reason. There are a lot of glaring design issues with this GT3, a lot of issues in terms of the way that the car handles and the way that it reacts to trying to take some of these corners. Plenty more experienced drivers than I could probably tell you more about that, but what we've seen to be chief in point the issue surrounding the Honda is its glaring lack of stability. It's a car that, if set up to be more aggressive and to tackle these corners harder, has a very, very low ceiling for what it can actually tolerate before it ends up in trouble like this, where it either starts understeering or it starts violently oversteering. Now, we've seen plenty of incidents before with the Hondas, and very rarely have we seen effective performances. I can only name on one finger one time where a driver has gone into the NSX and been competitive for the duration of a season. That would have been Joshua Kaufman when he raced for Kitsune Racing over on the AXRL. I think it's the Southern Endurance Series way back when. That would have been a few years ago now. Now see Lord Hesketh Prodsworth, the 27th, 5 thousandths up the road from Alan Alexander. And this bit is not wearing itself out. We're going to keep going with the full name, at least for the duration of qualifying. I'm not sure how fast we can raffle that one off over the course of a race coming up here. Only 11 cars. I mean, it is a bit disappointing to see the grid get this small when we're expecting 27 cars, but I think that might be chalked up to issues in scheduling. I don't think many people knew that this was going to extend into the 26th, but there have been changes to that calendar in the server. People have been informed about the breaks that we've had over the Easter weekend a few weeks ago, actually, as it would stand. It does leave us here scratching our heads, wondering where everyone else is. We're with 11 cars. We're expecting 16 more of them, according to the sign-ups today, as we see now Tyler Vermack goes fastest by 210 thousandths. There's 5 thousandths between Alexander and Prodsworth. So what we are still seeing, in the absence of a larger grid, which has normally governed this championship for so long, is still a very close top three at hand here. Less than a quarter of a second. We actually do have a list here as well, as Prodsworth goes fastest by 260 thousandths. I mean, we are actually standing upon the precipice here of a first for Bentley. Now, this was far earlier in the season when we were still discussing the time for David Tangway, one of the Malwa Racing drivers, one of the star talents of that team. In the early parts of the season, there was that real hope, especially in Suzuka, the opening round of the championship, when he went head-to-head with Van Velzen and LeBay for the lead of that race. There was definitely a chance right off the bat in this season to see a win from Bentley. Then the Malwa Racing team withdrew after a few rounds of the championship, and now it's a case where a new Bentley has emerged to the field. In the form here of Prodsworth. Vermack second, Alexander third, Rod fourth, Beefgartner fifth, Hart sixth, Cheeseman seventh, McLeon in eighth, Quentin Lultram in ninth. And we see there the emergence. So, oh, that's a breath of fresh air. I was really worried we weren't going to be able to see him today, and he would have halved his points for nothing. Fake Galaxy with Audi. The number 55 onto this grid. Very late in, it's worth pointing out. Just past the halfway mark. But he will still have time if he can get himself geared up and ready to go to get out on track and start setting in some times here. Galaxy now joining us from the pit lane. Brings the tally up to 12 cars on this grid, 6 either side of which. Now, another likely cause for why... Oh, my goodness. We just see there for Kieran Rodd. Now, this is the second or third time, actually, we've seen someone wiped out at the Island Bend. Here at turn 4. As I was saying as well, getting into the talks of the grid size again, I think it's also a likely case you could tally it up towards late season fatigue, I would say, is one of your likely causes here. It's a case where... as with any championship, big or small, once you get down to that last round, a lot of drivers have had to make peace with the fact that they're no longer in the run for the championship. A lot of people end up dropping off. And it's a likely case when we head into round 1 of season 6 in a few weeks' time, that we'll see those grid numbers come back up, as there's a lot more opportunities for these drivers. For a lot of the rookies as well, of course, having entered so late into the season, for drivers like Galaxy, for drivers like Deesh, for having a look around here as well for some of the other rookies on this grid. The others being freshly new sign-ups. We also have Kieran Rodd. They'll be joining the ranks of the sort of the quote-unquote pro standings. We now see an 11th car for the overall standings, not DSQ. That brings the current standing up to 13 cars. John O'Driscoll, MSC Season 3 champion, now joins us once again. It's great to see him on the track here in Oulton Park, but just like for Galaxy, there is a degree of hesitance we're noticing here in some of the later arrivals from the 55 and the 420, namely in the fact that they're just not seeming to get that shove out of the pit lane. And this is certainly quite a cinematic moment we're seeing here from Van Veltzen and Deesh. I mean, one thing that comes to mind almost immediately is that scene at the Fuji Speedway, the sort of last race of the 1976 season in the film Rush, the sort of adaptation of the 1976 Formula 1 Championship, where there was that sort of stare-off on the grid between Niki Lauda and James Hunt. Now, I imagine that's what's going on in the minds of those two. Of course, they're racing for the same team, so there's maybe a fewer set of stakes involved, but the championship still rests in their hands nonetheless. And it has also given rise here to a possible first for Hayden Prodger, otherwise operating today as Lord Hesketh Prodsworth the 27th. Now, do stick with us towards the end of today's broadcast, because we will be getting words out of the champions today. We're also going to be getting a word, hopefully, in. Fingers crossed, we'll be having a chat with Ben Meredith, one of the team principals of the Euro Titans Endurance team. And we'll be having a chat with him about the successes the team have shared in over the course of this season. It was a brilliant performance for them. We saw right from the very get-go for Season 5 that the gloves were coming off, and they have delivered on an exemplary performance for the team's championship. So we're getting a word with him, hopefully later on after today's race. We're getting a word out of the possible champions here, so could be a likely case that we're having a chat with both Van Veltzen and Deesh. In an ideal world, it would be a case where Van Veltzen seems on track here for the overall championship, with Carlos Deesh looking at the rookies. But of course, nothing's written. It could very well be a case we find ourselves with some different drivers here, but we'll see how that all unfolds. 6 minutes left to go in qualifying, and across the line, still fastest 132.992 Hayden Prodger, otherwise Lord Hesketh Prodsworth, the 27th in the 222 Bentley. And after these interviews, we'll also have our champions on as part of the latest additions to The Wheel. Now, long-time fans of the NLRL Sunday League will know what The Wheel is. It's been our way of deciding the calendar for the last couple of seasons and has given us the calendars for both Season 4 and Season 5. And I'd say it's been a very effective process. Well, we'll have the champions input on this one because there's 2 new categories added onto The Wheel, the Champions Choice and the Rookies Championships Choice. So both champions, whether that could be one person in the case of Carlos Deesh or whether that could be 2 people in the case of Van Veltzen and Carlos Deesh, but it's when it lands on that, of the remaining tracks that are still on the wheel, they get a custom pick. So they get to effectively hotkey a track onto the calendar if it lands on the rookies or champions choice. It's our way of sort of giving back to the grid and letting them be the arbiters of their own fate in this grid and on this calendar. 5 minutes left to go in the session so far, and the 222 has cleared house here in Oulton Park. Could very well be the first time we could see Bentley win in the Sunday League. We missed out on the opportunity in the time that David Tanguay was still on the grid in the early parts of Season 5. Here in the trailing end, this is not the first time that Proger has seen this happen for him. In the trailing end of Season 1 of the Competizione Performance League GT4 Pro-Am Cup America Series at Misano, it was a case where when he was driving for Aston Martin, a late arrival into the season, Proger was able to turn that into his first GT4 victory on TRTN. This could very well be his time to emerge into the spotlight. Now, he's competed in the Sunday League before, albeit not under so many various aliases, but on his short-lived stint back on console before he heads back off to the big leagues at PC, this could very well be a high note to leave upon. The 222, fastest in the session by over a quarter of a second to Tyler Vermaak, a mainstay driver of this championship, a driver with 6 race wins under his belt so far, stands in as the second most amount of race wins in the history of this series, behind Melvin Milliston with a staggering 18 race wins. He's right now holding his ground rather effectively, and this top 3 is still looking rather exciting. We have Proger, we have Vermaak, and we have Alexander on his continued escapades with Mercedes and his move away from Porsche. And it's evidently, as we mentioned a few times before, it's a choice definitely worth making for the 315. He seems definitely a lot more confident, a lot more comfortable, I would say, in his move to Mercedes. And this has sort of been a mass infill for Mercedes. We've seen quite a few drivers who have preferred other options manufacturer-wise at the Euro Titans team move over towards Mercedes in the last couple of months. We've seen the same story out of Ian Skeen. He now mainstays with Mercedes after what was previously drives with BMW. We have seen him, however, compete with BMW. We saw him in Misano earlier this week, driving an M6 over on, I believe it was VSR. So with the last couple of minutes rolling in, Progeworth in the pit lane, 340 thousandths over Vermaak. Across the line comes the number 8. We're still not at that point of no return. We've got about 2 more laps before we get to that point. The number 8, still second fastest, an all-British front row when it comes to the manufacturers, with Bentley and McLaren. Behind them, Mercedes and Ford. In terms of what's going to be going on after today's round of the championship and after we wrap up on our broadcast today, well, there will be a special round of the Sunday League coming up in a few weeks' time. Between Season 5 and Season 6, NLRL is organising a one-off round with a very bizarre-looking assortment of vehicles to use. And that will be ran on whatever the first round of Season 6 is. So this will not only decide the calendar, the wheel I'm talking about here will not only decide the calendar for Season 6, it will also decide the calendar for that one-off special round. That's set to run on May 10th, same time as today, 6:30 PM BST. Do look forward to that one. We might be around to be able to cover that one, but currently no confirmation from our side just yet. We may have more news for that later on down the line. Heading up and around then the run of things here at Druids, not to be confused with Turn 2 down at Brands Hatch, though sharing the same name. Down through to Lodge Corner and Deer Leap. Tyler Vermaak now crossing onto his last flying lap, so where better is the opportunity to catch on board with him for the track tour here at Oulton Park. Starting things off then down at Old Hall Corner as you make our way down through this long sweeping right-hander. Very abrupt cut-off there and very little run-off, but that seems to be enough to have invalidated Vermaak. So sadly, we'll have to wait until the formation lap before we get anything constituting a track tour. We see here from Ben Cheeseman currently lapping the track. We might actually have an opportunity here to make our way down through Denton's in towards Cascade, so we will stay on board and try and get that track tour in now, but running out wide from Turn 3 at Cascades onto the Lakeside Straight. In towards Island Bend, this long sweeping left-hander. Deceptively sharp. We've seen many a driver run out wide and there's nothing there to catch them. It's just grass, and that causes them to slip out wide, as we've seen for plenty over the course of free practice and qualifying today. Cheeseman out through Turn 5 of the Shell Oils corner, up round Turn 6, now into Britain's Turn 7, 8 and 9. Up in front of him, you can see there, Dimitri McLeon heading up then through the hilltop straight in towards turns 10, 11 and 12 at Hislop's. Right now, just consulting some of the telemetry here, though it does appear invalid on our side. It is showing upwards of half a second's worth of improvement to be found here as crossing up and around Clay Hill in towards Water Tower at turn 14. Now turn 15 at Druids. And like many MSV circuits, there's a heavy emphasis here on this undulating, almost roller coaster-like design. Down through Lodge Corner, now into Dearly, but into the pit lane goes Ben Cheeseman at the end of this session, 8th at the end of qualifying. We'll come to see, though, if there's any changes coming up. We do see still lapping the track is Kieran Rodd, fastest among the rookies. And his main rival in the Rookies Championship is Carlos Dish, who starts at the back of this field down in 13th place. Out through Druids then. Kieran Rodd, as it would stand, just over 3/4 of a second from pole position. That currently held on to by Lord Hesketh Prodsworth, the 27th. Otherwise, Hayden Prodger in the 222 Bentley. Up and around turn 17. In towards the line we go with Kieran Rodd. At the end of the session, stays 4th, but it was to an improvement for him there. Now only 670 thousandths away from the fastest lap, and lining up in 4th place. A smaller than life qualifying, one that was set off by a very bizarre opening incident as both Diesch and Van Veltzen, seemingly by agreement, drove in the opposite direction to the end of the pit lane and disqualified themselves. They'll start on the trailing end of that 6th row onto the 7th for the start of the final round of the championship. Now getting a look into the regulations once again. For today's round, we have 90 minutes of racing to follow, a single mandatory pit stop among them for an open strategy minimum 3.2 seconds of fuel. We see there O'Driscoll in chat suggesting, are they perhaps the new back row bandits? Of course, that was originally the acting name we had for John O'Driscoll and Kieran Rodd in their endeavours in VSR. We could very well be seeing the resurgence of that in the form of the current championship rivals. But we see for today's session currently what the scope of racing is going to look like. And before we get on to the grid for today, much smaller than we were expecting for the final round of the championship, but really it does boil down to 3 drivers still in contention across both championship standings. We'll see how it unfolds today. Before we do, though, a word from the news. We now have word from the World Rally Championship after troubles for Toyota. They dropped to a 1, 2, 3, 4, but it's Seb Ogier who wins in the Islas Canarias Rally. In Rally 2 is a case where Johan Russell won with Lancia again, giving him his 2nd victory this season, and continued hopes for Lancia. That currently concludes what is a much shorter segment of news than the one we had yesterday. Plenty of exciting articles of news that we were able to cover over the course of the Competizione Performance League World Series and our last coverage of that last night. And as it stands at the end of qualifying, Hayden Prodger on pole in the 222 Bentley. And that is his first GT3 pole, so this is going to be remarkable to see what he can make of it, albeit acting under another one of his many aliases. But evidently, this one has been right on the money in his efforts to, be as big money as possible. Gold-clad Bentley, Lord in the title. Evidently, that works here on what is the former Oulton estate, home of the Gray Egerton family. So some call it madness, but there's method to be found here from Prodger, who lines up on pole position. It's worth noting a few stutters there on connection. We could see, though, with the grid lineup now, much smaller than what we started off with in this season, but it all boils down to these remaining 13. Hayden Prodger on pole position with Tyler Vermack in 2nd place, Alan Alexander in 3rd, and Kieran Rodd in 4th. Zolf Beefgartner in 5th place, with Fate Galaxy in 6th, with Audi and Ben Hart in 7th, Ben Cheeseman in 8th, and we see Dimitri McLeon in 9th, John O'Driscoll in 10th, Clement Quentin Ultram in 11th, and Cas van Veltzen in 12th. It's Carlos Dish at the back of the field in 13th. The poll results as well for the return of Success Ballast have been finalised at 70% yes, 30% no. We do actually have somewhat of an insight on what those new regs are going to look like, and I will say a lot of the original naysayers to the Success Ballast regulations might have to reconsider their tune coming in towards Season 6, because what we are seeing at the moment, and we'll speak more about it in the next couple of weeks on the run in towards Season 6, it's looking rather interesting because there is originally, as claimed, a decay system coming in that will allow weights to be taken away in respect to top 10 finishes. So it's going to be interesting to see as drivers who are actually towards the back of the field will be getting lighter as the front row get heavier in this effort to bring everything into this common middle ground. It's very curious what they're doing over on the regulations for Season 6, and we'll speak more about that as and when we get in towards Season 6. We don't know yet where that will be, of course, for the run into the calendar. The wheel does await us. Before we get to the wheel, 90 minutes of racing to follow here in Oulton Park. As we wait for the pull away on the formation lap, about a minute and a half before we do so. Key drivers to watch out for in this race. Of course, the front row here. Tyler Vermaat gunning for his 7th career victory. Hayden Prodger gunning for his 1st in the Sunday League. The back row as well, as we see here in P12 and P13. Cas van Velzen and Carlos Deech. These two separate by 17 points at the front of the championship standings. It all comes down to this one. Van Velzen has had an exemplary season here and his most competitive on record. He's been in close ties for the championship many a time already. He was part of that 3-driver split that came down to the last doubleheader race in Silverstone at Season 3 of the championship. That was ultimately won by Melvin Milliston. Will he find himself facing a lot of the same pressures as that? And moreover, can he rise to the occasion where the last seasons showed that he couldn't? The 314 has had an iron will over the course of this season, and I have it on good authority. He could very well become champion today. He narrowly missed out on the opportunity to do so last week, finishing 5th to Deech's 1st. It all comes down to this one. Going up towards the front then. Prodger leading that charge. The golden Bentley up and ahead of the golden McLaren. Behind him, a golden Mercedes and a slightly golden Ford. Watching then with the 222 as he's about to be let go onto the track here to begin that formation lap. Pulling away from the field then. The 222 down towards turn 1. Major overtaking opportunities are a sparse variety here at Oulton Park. It's what makes this circuit a very curious location for the last round of this championship, where positioning is absolutely going to matter. It certainly raises many an eyebrow that the championship leaders will start from the back, seemingly by their own volition, which is what makes this all the more confusing. But in terms of where we have opportunities for overtakes, down in towards Cascades is one such example. Very similar in terms of its structure to another corner, the Graham Hill Bend at the Brands Hatch circuit, another MSV duel. Both of which introduced around the same time, historically, with Brands Hatch in 1950, Oulton Park in 1953. And heading up towards the Island Bend. Now, this is where I'd say there's less an opportunity for overtakes, more an opportunity for drivers to run out wide, and then that facilitates overtaking from the drivers still within the white lines. Down through here, though, in towards turn 5, Shell Oils. We have seen plenty of drivers try it up the inside. It is a limited success, though, as to whether or not they come out the other side with the position they want. This banked corner here, reminiscent of some of the corners at Zandvoort, or even at a stretch, the Caracciolo Carousel, where it's banking all the way on the inside. The drivers will be hooking all the way to the inside line there. It makes it very difficult to stay two abreast, so there will be plenty of dive bombs expected down in that area of the track. Historically speaking, that's been the running case here for Oulton Park in our last couple of visits across a few different championships. Making our way then down towards the run of turns 10, 11 and 12. Hislops could also find itself as a great overtaking opportunity, but not in the place you'd think. It wouldn't be on the run into the chicane. It's going to be the run out of the chicane, as that ultimately decides where the drivers stand as they race uphill all the way in towards Clay Hill coming up now. And this area tightens up rapidly for the run into turn 14 and 15, so it's a very spur-of-the-moment kind of place here. We could definitely see some really frayed emotions from these drivers trying to get out past one another, and we could even see some incidents here as this area tightens up very quickly. You see it here at Water Tower. This is where it becomes barely too wide on the run in towards turn 15. And so making our way down towards turn 16 and turn 17. While the grid may be small, the stakes for the championship are astronomically large. 2 championships in the tow of things here, rookies and overall drivers. 3 drivers in contention, neither of them are on that front row. We do see one of them on the second row as we head down towards the line here. 13 cars in all, 6 on one side and 7 on the other for the final round of the NLRL Sunday League Season 5, powered by Malwar Transport. Down to the line here in Oulton Park. 90 minutes of racing are underway here in Oulton Park. A brilliant start by Tyler Vermack to get right up and alongside Proger for the run in towards turn 1. But the Bentley holds the inside. A bit of a rub between the pair of them off the exit of Old Hall Corner in towards turn 2. Now with Vermack gunning for the inside, then to the outside for the run at Cascades. It's been a great start then by the Bentley. We see the Mercedes tucked in right behind now Tyler Vermack. That's Alan Alexander for the run up towards the Island Bend at turn 4. Meanwhile, there's Calamity. The 114 brings out the yellow flags. It's Ben Cheeseman in trouble down at turn 3. And caught up with him was the number 77, that being Dimitri McLeon. One brand new driver, sorry, on the field against Ben Cheeseman. Both of them came together down at turn 3. We now see even more trouble there. That's for Clement Quentin Laltram, the 511, the Honda, now in trouble down at Island Bend. We said it would catch out someone, but I wasn't expecting it so early. Taking a look back up into that top 3 as we see then a 3-way fight for the lead of this race. Proger, Vermack and Alexander in the lead with Rod right behind them. Galaxy in pursuit on his first drive in with Audi right behind him, though Zolt Beefgartner. Carlos Deesh now up and ahead of his rival, Cas van Velsen. And as it would stand right now, he still finds himself away from the lead in at least divisions here, with Kieran Rod leading the rookies out through Druids. We see here for Cas van Velsen a very troubled start for him. I will be keeping a very close eye on the scorings over the course of this race. Now, it also teeters heavily on the fastest lap. That's an additional 3 points that you get for the fastest lap in this race. So a very frayed start then between the 2 championship rivals. We see here for the leader of the rookies in this race, currently second in the championship, Kieran Rod, still in pursuit here of his teammate Alan Alexander. Tyler Vermack tries to open the taps up now on the leading Bentley. You see that gap is starting to come down. Came down by about 0.2 of a second from 7 to 5. See a very close spread of drivers here, led by Fate Galaxy. Just up in front of him is Kieran Rod, and it appears more troubles connection-wise. If he suffers a disconnect here, that 61 is out of the Rookies Championship, and it will go to Carlos Deesh regardless of where he finishes now. In the case of that 61, he has nothing to fear but his internet service provider itself. Down through to Hislop's. We see here from Fate Galaxy looking to take the lead of the rookies in this race. Heading up towards Hislop's. He's on the inside. There was nearly contact between himself and the 61. Right behind him, the 599 and the 545. Behind them is John O'Driscoll in 8th place. Cas van Velsen in 9th. On a very slow start to things here, as he's 1.2 seconds away from this main spread of cars. We see Deesh now up past that of Fate Galaxy as he leaps up through past Clay here at Water Tower, now down through Druids as he continues his pursuits over Zolt Beefgartner. Beefgartner setting his sights as well on Kieran Rod, so the grid may be small, but the racing is mighty here in Oulton Park, up and around turn 17. As we go rearing down towards turn 1 here on lap 2. Meanwhile, it's a case where Proger's now a full second over Vermack, with Alexander closing in. Kieran Rod holds on to the lead of the rookies, 4th overall in the session, with Beefgartner in pursuit, but right behind him there you can see 4-time race winner in this series, the first Swiss driver ever to have won in the Sunday League, and possible champion tonight, Carlos Deesh. Heading up through to turn 4. Very close in his tracks right now. From where it stands at the moment, 6th place for Carlos Deesh would have him currently obtain about 21 points if Van Velsen stays in 9th place. That's a difference of currently 9 points that would keep Van Velsen in the championship charge. Meanwhile, we see up in front here, getting closer and closer, is Rod and Beefgartner. They head up through Hislop's. Very wonky run of things there, down from turns 11 and 12 for the 61, but you can see his connection is on the fritz here. This is a bit of a worrying sight for the 61, given the stakes at play for this race. We see up in front, getting much closer now to a fight of second, is Alan Alexander. Seeing in here. Mercedes in hot pursuit then of second place. We'll go and catch on board with him for the run down through into lap 3. On board then with Alexander, we see up through turn 17 in pursuits of Tyler Vermack. Half a second between the pair of them. Meanwhile, looking further down the line to see some of the other scopes of fighting in today's race. Deesh versus Beefgartner, my mistake there. And it's a three-way split with Rod up in front of him. Equal gap between the car in front and the car behind here from the point of view of the 599. TSRC Esports is Zolt Beefgartner, who's been a very, very capable talent so far with Lexus. Heading through Island Bend in towards Shell Oils at turn 5. The 61 in his iron sights. He's got to keep himself clear of trouble, though. That 545 nipping at his heels as he makes his way up round turn 6. Getting a look back up the order as we do see things get closer and closer here to contact between the number 8 and the 315. It was a step out through Britain's, and that forces Tyler Vermack down to third as we head up towards Hislops. Mercedes now up to second place in this race. Alan Alexander up over Tyler Vermack for second, but Hayden Prodger still leads with the fastest lap. Super, super close in the field behind him, but just scooting away in the lead of this race. The Bentley up at the front of the charge. We were denied the opportunity to see a first Bentley win at the start of the season with David Tangway in his fight with Christian LeBay and Cas van Veltzen in Suzuka, but now a new Bentley has emerged. Never say never on the opportunity that we could see a new race winner today. That would make 4 brand new race winners this season of the current 6 drivers to have won. That's 6 different drivers, giving us the most variety of race winners since season 2. Vermack still in pursuit of Alexander, but taking a look here to the back of the top 5. Zolt Beefgartner closing in on Kieran Rod. Carlos Deesh behind him. Meanwhile, down the line here, we see a fight going on for 8th place. Cas van Veltzen versus John O'Driscoll. Heading up towards turn 3, just off the exit of turn 2. Now through turn 3 here at Cascades. The BMW struggling on the start. Now, when you consider that both Van Veltzen and Carlos Deesh are both north of 20 kilos heavier than factory weight, not factoring in BOP. It's been a very, very troublesome start for the BMW. Through the Shell Oils corner, they're stepping out wide off the exit of turn 5. Just can't find any ground of it. Looking back into that top 5 fight as we see that fight for 8th in the background. Beefgartner getting closer and closer to the Ford in front of him. Kieran Rod looking incredibly vulnerable here to an advance by the 599, but bouncing up over the curbs at Hislops at turn 11. Beefgartner clinging on for dear life here for that chance of 4th place. We see a look here from the fight of 2nd place. Tyler Vermack trying for a counter-attack here over Alan Alexander. A great overtake we saw from the Mercedes not long ago, just on the trailing end of Britain's, down at turns 7, 8 and 9 in the last lap just gone. He stays the course then of 2nd place. Looking back in as we now see side-by-side action. Carlos Deesh versus Zolt Beefgartner. This is for the last of the top 5 positions here for Deesh, going up the inside in towards turn 1. Later onto the brakes goes the 545 over the 599. Great overtake by Carlos Deesh, now 5th, as Van Veltzen maintains 9th. The stakes for the championship have been raised astronomically high when both he and Van Veltzen went to the back of the field on purpose, disqualifying themselves from qualifying here in round 10. And that seems to have worked well for one, where it has not worked so well for the other. Van Veltzen's still stuck in behind O'Driscoll for 8th. From where it stands at the moment, Carlos Deesh, if he is able to finish in 5th with Van Veltzen 9th, just quickly punching the numbers on this one, 5th place will give him 24 points and 9th with 12. That's currently a point yield of 12 points difference. That still keeps Van Veltzen in the charge to become champion. They need 18 points to take the championship. So for Carlos Deesh, the sky's the limit, and with his teammate up in front of him, Kieran Rod, what are the chances to see a possible overtake in now? Now, when you consider as well the talk of the Rookies Championship, Kieran Rod is now leading up over Carlos Deesh in this race, whereas it's the inverse when it comes to the championship talks. with Carlos Disch leading the Rookies Championship into this round. Kieran Rodd still mathematically within a chance to win the Rookies Championship, but the chances right now, especially with the 545 in his rearview mirror, are slimming by the second as we head up through turn 16. The two Fords going head-to-head here. 3 V8s in all, though, for that fight of 4th place, with the 5.4 behind them of the Lexus of Zolt Beefgartner, looking for the inside again, trying to mirror the same move he carried out on the 599. It's contact as getting pushed around in a turn 1. A bit of a bump between the 61 and the 545 could have ended in disaster. Heading up through turn 2, now to turn 3. Heading on to the island straight, heading to the island bend at turn 4. We're already down a driver, bringing the current tally down to 12 cars from 13 at the race start today. That was for the number 77 AMG. Sadly now out of this race. That was McLeon. 12 cars left in this race. 2 championships to wrap up. Right now we're seeing here the 2 leading rookies head to head. Kieran Rodd versus Carlos Disch. Right behind them, a series mainstay, TSRC Esports' Zolt Beefgartner. 3 V8s in contention for 4th place so far in today's race. Getting a look back up on the podium, however, would reveal recent developments for the fight of second. That counter-attack we spoke of not long ago is now picking up in a full swing up through Clay Hill into Water Tower here for Tyler Vermack as he continues to build ground over Alan Alexander. Meanwhile, Hayden Prodger continues to lead by a landslide here in the opening 20 minutes of racing as we now find ourselves 3.4 seconds in the lead over Alexander. A brilliant hustle then by the Bentley, and could very well give us at the closing chapter of Season 5 another first in this series. We've seen the first Swiss driver to win, the first Austrian driver to win. We could have a first for the manufacturers here as the first Bentley to win. Could be approaching in the next hour and 18 minutes. More on that as it develops, though, as we see recent troubles there. Kieran Rodd is off at turn 16, all the way down, tumbling to 9th place as he rejoins the track. And that is disastrous news for him, because that could very well be the last whispers of his championship endeavor in rookies fizzling out. As Carlos Disch now moves up to 4th, Zolt Beefgartner moves to 5th, Van Velzen moves to 8th. Big Galaxy, what has been a very ambitious drive for him now, over towards Audi, away from Ford, which was the manufacturer of choice for him when he picked up on his first 2 wins in this championship. Galaxy, the first Austrian driver to ever win in the NLRL Sunday League, now opting to race for Audi. Could this be an early warning sign for what to expect out of him next season? We'll try and get a word out of him over the break between Season 5 and Season 6, as that certainly is a rather interesting footnote in his current vehicle choices. Speaking of vehicle choices, not long ago was there a transfer for Tyler Vermack from BMW to McLaren. Manufacturer he spent plenty of time with already, and you can see picking back up where he left off. Now, he's already spoke to us directly to say that this season for him wasn't his attempts to go for a championship. That didn't stop him from being fairly competitive in the opening couple of rounds, but it's a case here where Vermack is still, as he did in the trailing end of Season 4, testing the waters to see what works and what doesn't. Taking a look here for the fight of 4th, Disch versus Beefgartner. Meanwhile, in terms of developments on that fight, what is now for 7th, Van Velzen tucked in behind O'Driscoll. Looking in then with Zolt Beefgartner down through to turn 3 at Cascades. Coming up then on the first 15 minutes of racing covered. Prodger leads over Alexander, Vermack 3rd, Disch 4th, Beefgartner at the back of our top 5. In terms of division leads, overall is Prodger, rookies is Disch. Out through turn 6. This very tight chicane here, masterfully held by the 599. That's helping to keep him in tow here with the 545 in front. They're 7/10 apart on the run up towards Hislops. We do see cutting that chicane up ahead with some trouble for the 511. That was Clement Quentin Laltron with Honda. Up through turns 11 and 12, we see here at Hislops, up towards Clay Hill. Getting closer and closer. Beefgartner has a chance here to fight back for 4th. Up at around turn 13, we'll stay on board here with the Lexus in his continued efforts for 4th, up and around Druids. in that last lap, separate by just, looking there, just under 0.3 of a second difference, was Carlos Diesch and Zolt Beefgartner. Looking back in now to see what's going on for Kieran Rodd, it was that major upset for him off the exit of turn 16 a few laps ago that has set him down now to 9th place in this race. You can see connections still definitely on the fritz. There is a great degree of worries here for him after what has already been a rather eventful last couple of laps. It's worth pointing out here from the point of view of Hayden Prodger, operating today as Lord Hesketh Prodgeworth, the 27th, the number 222 Bentley, that gap between himself and Alan Alexander is dropping. He was 3.6 seconds, actually 3.4 seconds if I'm not mistaken, in our last observed interval. That has now cut down to 2.1, with the chances by the end of this lap for that to drop south of 2 seconds. What this means is Alexander could very well be looking at his first opportunity to fight for a race win since his inaugural win in this season, in this series, last season in Kyalami. This is one that Prodger will be adamant to defend. Of course, his first opportunity and his first real opportunity in this series to go for a race win. It's been quite literally paved in gold for him on the run in towards round 10. A great qualifying session. Both the championship leaders by their own volition start from the back. He's been given the best opportunity in-house. And a driver of his caliber, we know that he's not going to squander it. Down through turn 3. We'll catch on with him later on, though, taking a look into the nearest fights on track. And it's still, as it would appear right now, be Diesch versus Beefgartner, but there's been a lot more recent development here for Van Velzen v O'Driscoll. So let's go and catch on board with the BMW. Still currently the championship leader, but if anything goes wrong for him now, or if he can't continue to gain ground like his championship rival Carlos Diesch is, that championship could fizzle out. It's a 17-point gap at the front of the championship standings when you consider that neither driver at this time have the fastest lap. Those 3 points that would go towards it are up in the air, looking off of just raw standings alone. Having a glance onto the overall standings here to see Carlos Diesch now 4th. That would give him 27 points over what is currently 8th place. It would give Cas Van Velzen 15. So that's a point scoring difference there of about looking 12 points from where they stand. That's still within acceptable tolerances, but up through Hislops, that could be a free position here for Cas Van Velzen. John O'Driscoll ran out wide at Hislops, now up towards Clay Hill. Up through turn 13, he's got the inside for turn 13 and to turn 14, but he'll be to the outside at turn 15 if O'Driscoll can leap for the inside, and that looks to be the case as he's now backed out of it at Druids. Better intuition there from the 420, but up to 7th goes Van Velzen. His efforts for the championship are still here. He's fought long and hard enough. It can't come down to this for him. Up and around turn 17. Holds on to 7th. Checking back in on the gap at the lead of the race, now 2.5 seconds, 1.2 seconds between 2nd and 3rd. That recently updates to 1.1 between Vermaak and Alexander. Beefgartner, 1.1 seconds now out from Carlos Diesch. And checking here off the exit of turn 3 what the gap is between Van Velzen and O'Driscoll. Currently at half a second. Still keeps this lively in the conversation that this is the closest battle we have on track at this time. Very nearly contact there between the 420 and the 314 off the exit of turn 5 at the Shell Oils corner. Watching here over the rear view of Cas Van Velzen's BMW to see the Ferrari of John O'Driscoll pursue him down through Britons. Now on the run uphill to the Hilltop Straight, then into Hislops, turns 10, 11 and 12. And now hell-bent to avenge that one tiny mistake that led to his loss of 7th place. O'Driscoll going far later onto the brakes. Now it's been worth noting in the last couple of major braking spots on track. He is really pushing the envelope out now on the Ferrari to try and get back up with the BMW after what has been coming up on now the first 20 minutes of racing here in Oulton Park. Getting a look at where things stand right now. Prodger in the lead with Alexander in 2nd, Vermaak in 3rd, Diesch 4th, Beefgartner in 5th, Galaxy in 6th, Van Velzen in a recent 7th, O'Driscoll 8th, Rod 9th, and Hart in 10th. Cheeseman in 11th, and Quentin Lultram in 12th. And it appears that their fighting is far from over at this current stead of the race. There is an advancing gap, though, between Vermaak and Alexander, so it's worth noting a possible fight for second is around the corner between the McLaren and the Mercedes up at the front of the field. Both of them still playing second fiddle to the Bentley up at the front of the pack. We see here down at Britain's is the Bentley in question, and there you can really see demonstrated the physical gap that exists between him and the 315 and the number 8 behind him. It was a moment of bother there for the Honda of Clement Quentin Laltram. The NSX, and we mentioned it before, it's a very unorthodox pick in the current meta for ACC. It's a car that's often overlooked, and for good reason. When it comes to the Japanese offerings, Lexus and Nissan are your go-tos. Honda is one that fell by the wayside. Even in spite of getting an Evo package, we see here for Laltram, he's been struggling against those stability concerns near enough all race long. If it's not been the car violently kicking him out wide, it's been a case where he's been running out wide under the brakes, as the car has very little bite for a mid-engine vehicle. Really, your best offerings for a V6 mid-mount is the right one right on your screen here. The Ferrari 296. Beefgartner catching up to Deesh, as it would appear. Just about there, 9/10 of a second. Was previously 7, so a swift advance to get that gap back open between Deesh and Beefgartner in the third sector. We'll see what the current intervals are showing here for Alexander v Vermaak. Much closer now. 4 temps, just under 5. So definitely the scope of a new fight emerging, as we continue to see one here between Van Velzen and O'Driscoll. About 4 temps between the pair of them as they run down through Cascades. We'll catch on with them in a moment's time. We're going to quickly focus our attention over to the ongoing fight for second place, as it gets closer than ever here between Tyler Vermaak and Alan Alexander. Following on then here with Tyler Vermaak for the fight of second place. In towards Hislops we go. The Mercedes right up over his nose now. Both of them dipping their left wheels onto the grass as we head up now through turn 12 in towards turn 13, beginning the ascent up through to Clay Hill. Number 40 in trouble. That's Ben Hart down at Cascades. And that would see him out of this race. The tally of cars now down to 11. And I believe we are approaching an all-time low for this series in terms of the grid numbers, but as we mentioned before, the grid may be small, but the racing has been mighty here in Oulton Park. Down through turn 16. We'll run up through turn 17, onto lap 14 of this race so far. Vermaak clinging on to the back of the Mercedes, knowing that his opportunities for an overtake are rather slim in Sector 1. He's really got to play things rather opportunistically. And up and around Cascades could be the first of those opportunities. Side by side, and ahead goes Tyler Vermaak in towards second. Alexander drops down towards third. We'll see what the counter-attack strategy is from the Mercedes. Heading up round Island Bend in towards the Shell Oils corner at turn 5 as Vermaak re-secures second place. But all of that pushing and shoving is just paying dividends over to the Bentley in the lead of this race. 3.6 seconds now, the gap between Tyler Vermaak and Hayden Prodger. Coming up on the first 30 minutes of racing, and we'll be expecting the bulk of those pit stops to emerge around the 45-minute mark. When we've got about 45 minutes left in this race is where we're going to be expecting to see that infill to the pit lane. That's at the halfway mark of today's race up and around Clay Hill. We did see a bit of an upset for Vermaak off of turns 11 and 12, and that's invited Alan Alexander back in to come and have a go down at Druids. Leveraging a good exit here could give him the opportunity to go for the inside down at turn 16. And that appears to be the case, going for the inside, but backs out of it. Trying to put a little bit of the fear into the number 8. We see the 511 was in trouble. We couldn't actually see where Clement Quentin Laltram was. Down through to turn 1 on lap 15 of this race. Tyler Vermaak holds his nerve for second. But that gap is only getting larger and larger. 4 seconds now between Prodger and Vermaak down through Cascades. We'll catch on with him in a moment's time, taking a look back down the field to see the current scope of fighting between O'Driscoll and Van Velzen. And that gap has now come back away as Van Velzen drops down to 8th, O'Driscoll to 7th. From where it stands at the moment, it's looking rather grim here for Cas van Velzen, with that points gap currently at 17 between himself and Carlos Disch, who now resides in 4th place, about 5 seconds off the mark from seeing a podium in this race. He sits in 4th, 27 points. Van Velzen sits in 8th and would pick up 15 points. That brings us in the tally right now of having a look at it here. Yes, so it's still 12 points. He would be winning this by 5 at the end of today's round if they hold the positions they're at and neither of them secure a fastest lap. Heading up and around Druids then, Carlos Disch finds himself in a bit of a lonely spot amongst the top 5 here. Beefgartner about 1.7 seconds behind him, and he himself is about 4.7 seconds behind the fight for second. Alan Alexander versus Tyler Vermaak up at the front of the field. Currently resides as the only fight going on at this time. So going back on board with these two. What has been, albeit a very small grid to kick off the last round of the championship, but I imagine that will be starkly contrasted by round 1's grid for Season 6. Season 5's grid saw us at an all-time high 40 drivers for race 1 of the championship here in Season 5. Watching from Alexander's point of view, you see from Vermaak a bit of a spotty run of things out through turn 5. The McLaren still holds its nerve, nearly a full second up as it just crosses there into a second before Britain's. It's where the front-engine cars have such an advantage here over the mid-engine cars. It's a case where they can tackle these curbs, but the mid-engine cars have to play things a little bit more hesitantly or risk a possible bout of oversteer. Down through his locks, we can see, though, that Alexander's definitely getting a little bit cheeky with that turn 11 cut out through turn 12 into turn 13 at Clay Hill. In the pit lane at the moment is the 511 Honda of Quentin Lultram. Out through turn 15, you can see now from Vermaak this degree of confidence emerging. Now that he's got second place back in his hands, now's the opportunity to start chipping away at the lead, and he's starting to slowly but surely build up that gap over the Mercedes. Out through turn 16, now to turn 17, a full second between Vermaak and Alexander. Does possibly bring an end to one of the only remaining fights on this track. Now getting a look in here on the other side of it, and the number 8 and the 315 still contesting that second place spot, but now a second exists between them on the run in towards turn 3. You see here from Fake Galaxy, two-time race winner in this series, did both of those race wins with Ford. Now we see the dawn of a possible new chapter here for the Austrian talent as he moves over to Audi. Last of the V10s, of course. A bizarre sight. As I have just got wind as well, the current tally of drivers is now down to only 10. So this is a shockingly small grid. And a bit of a bittersweet feeling. As hang on just a tick. There was there another disconnect there? I'm a little bit confused because I'm pretty sure we just saw Galaxy go up a position on the markers from 7th to 6th. No, it's still very much so in order because O'Driscoll's 7th and Van Velzen's in 8th. That's as it was in the last report. Only 10 cars left though. I mean, you talk about the game being a bit gone. This is certainly getting close to that. You see for Kieran Rodd at the moment, still persistent connection troubles for the 61. And that seems to be only an issue that's going to stay for him for the next hour and a minute. I suppose whilst we have the opportunity here between action on track, it's worth talking about what's coming up into the next season. So what we understand so far is a new formatting structure that's going to be experimented on over the course of the Sunday League Special, which I would still encourage everyone currently listening in to sign up for. It's available in the link that we're just about to post now into the Twitch chat. Go and check this out. This is going to be held on May 10th. at 6:30 p.m. BST. A single round. We don't yet know what the track is going to be like. And it's a case where we're demonstrating a new format for the races that could very well take center hold of the races for Season 6 of the Sunday League. It's going to be an opportunity for drivers just to sort of stretch their legs a little bit, try out some different cars. Of course, the grid will be returning to the mainstay GT3s for Season 6, but this one-off round gives us the opportunities to experiment with other mediums such as GT4, GT2, Cup cars, and the M2CSs. And in terms of the championship calendar, that will be decided tonight in about an hour's time after we get the interviews in from Ben Meredith, or at least one of the team principals for Euro Titans, the winning team of Season 5 Teams Championship here on the NLRL Sunday League. We'll also be getting a word out of the Rookies Champion and Overall Champion, which as of yet is still undecided, with Cas van Velzen still in 8th place and 12 points being made up so far of a 17-point gap between himself and Carlos Disch. It still hangs very thin in the balance over who remains as the overall champion. Right now, from where he stands, Carlos Disch will, if he finishes on this current stead of the grid ahead of Kieran Rodd, take home the Rookies Champion. He'll be joining William Bajor as the current stead of Rookies Champions, both of which drove for Ford in their time. Bajor with VEC Esports and Carlos Disch with both 5-star and Euro Titans over the course of this season. There'll also be a case here, if they stay as they are currently between these two, with neither side gaining that fastest lap, Cas van Velzen will emerge as the Season 5 champion. But now they have 59 minutes to contend with before any of that is concrete. As battling starts to dim here, the chances for future battles rest up in the aether. Now, there is the considerations here for a possible fight between O'Driscoll and Van Velzen, but that's been in limbo for some time. 1.8 seconds currently the margin between Alexander and Vermaak, as Vermaak has tried to bring the gap down between himself and the leading Bentley. Proger charging ahead now, 4.8 seconds at the last interval as he crosses down onto lap 20. It has been a rather concerning state of affairs on the grid. But again, this is something that's almost emblematic of any of these online series, and we've seen this no matter the grid size. Unless it's a sort of paid entry championship like what you see with, for example, a series we did cover a few rounds for, the XL Pro Series. If there's no incentive for the drivers to stick around after the championship has been wrapped, then there's very, very likely to be the case where they won't show up. And that's nothing that Race Control can really control, funnily enough. It's a case where if, like I said, it's not a paid entry system, they will just disappear. It's late stage fatigue in the championship. Once they know they can't run home with a championship, you really only find yourself amongst the group of the most dedicated, as we do see recent troubles there for Fake Galaxy, with Audi ran out wide at Cascades during this talk and now finds himself down in 8th place. That forces Van Velzen up to 7th, bringing the tally even closer between himself and Carlos Disch. He still leads this championship if he finishes where he is right now. What was originally going to be a 5-point gap he would still lead by after this round has now been brought up as he moves into 7th place. Meanwhile, he's only 1.2 seconds away from John O'Driscoll, who has now since advanced to 6th. This does present a unique opportunity here for these two to go head-to-head once more. They're 1.2 seconds out as they cross Clay Hill in towards the water tower, still at 1.2 seconds. So that could be the nearest developing fight. It's worth pointing out that this gap has slowly but surely chipped down over the course of the last 2 laps. The great chance here for the 420 and the 314 to see battling once again. 56 minutes left to go here in Oulton Park. And don't go anywhere after this race. We've got plenty of fun and exciting things to talk about. Speaking with the champions of the series, the winning team's champion, team principal, and also the reveal of Season 6's calendar, the return of the infamous wheel, now with new additions, courtesy of the Rookies and Champions Choice, a new addition for Season 5. Gap now 1.5 seconds out of Cascades. As they cross up towards the island bend, we'll see what it is now for O'Driscoll and Van Velzen, 1.4. So it's really Sector 3 where the BMW is struggling. Now it's worth considering 21 additional kilos on success ballast for Cas van Velzen. And that's on top of when you look at BOP, the case where BMW have shed 2 kilos. So that brings him currently 19 kilos heavier than factory weight. And that is having quite an extended effect here on his performance. And it's not going to be much more reassuring for him at this time to know that Fake Galaxy, now with Audi, is in pursuit, 2.8 seconds out, having quickly picked himself back up after his incident down at Cascades, and could find himself emerging into a fight for 7th in the next couple of laps. Certainly has the pace for it. Speaking of pace, Tyler Vermaak now puts 2.1 seconds over Alan Alexander for the fight of 2nd. The gap between himself and Hayden Proger having come down 4 tenths from 4.6 to 4.2. Currently the nearest gap then on track. Van Velzen versus O'Driscoll. We'll go to catch on board then with the BMW in his continued pursuits of a possible 6th place. Currently finds himself still well within the current acceptable threshold to take home Season 5's championship, and he's fought against all odds for this one. It was a very bizarre thing to see that both he and Carlos Disch elected by their own volition to go to the back of the field. And where we thought there certainly would have been a longer standing rivalry on the track between these two, they find themselves worlds apart as the season comes to a close. Currently 20.7 seconds exist between the two championship rivals, with Disch in 4th, Van Velzen in 7th. Still well within the means to claim Season 5's championship from where it stands at the moment, but he needs to pray nothing happens on that podium that would give Disch the leg up, because that's where points start to ramp up once you get past the top 4. Following on then with the 314s, he makes his way down through Hislops. That additional weight on the BMW on a track where being light and nimble is such a necessity. You can see the struggle from the M4 trying to claw its way around these corners here at Druids. You can hear it in the engine as well, how he's having to feather the throttle to try and give the car as much an opportunity to rotate. The BMW, which is normally one of the sharper cars for the front engine category, is struggling so intensely on this track right now, with Ferrari continuing to carve a line ahead of them. John O'Driscoll stays in 6th. In that last lap, they were only separate pace-wise by about 27 thousandths of a second, but the gap advances to 1.5 seconds physically between them. We see behind is Fake Galaxy, just under 3 seconds away now from Cas Van Velzen. Behind him by 2.3 seconds is Kieran Rodd. Out through Cascades, you can see up in front there the distance between himself and Van Velzen. The two sharing the same stretch of the track up towards turn 4 at the Island Bend. Looking on with the other V10 of this grid, Ben Cheeseman down in 10th place. Last lap was a 1:36.609 as he crosses the line here, 1:36.756 onto lap 23. In terms of the gap now, Vermaak now 3.7 seconds. I mean, every single time it's been this exponential rise for Tyler Vermaak, and this is a worrying sign as well when you consider the chances for the championship. Carlos Disch is now only 3.2 seconds away from a podium here. Alan Alexander currently in 3rd. The gap between O'Driscoll and Van Velzen advances another 6 tenths from 1.5 to 2.1 seconds as Galaxy continues to chip away from behind. 2.6 seconds between himself and Van Velzen. 2.2 seconds away from Galaxy is Kieran Rodd. We saw have a sizable issue earlier on in this race in the pit lane at the moment. Now this is going to play a big impact into it, as they're having a bit of trouble getting to his pit box was John O'Driscoll. The 420 is in, trying to serve 6 minutes under the midway mark here for an early door strategy in the number 420. But with that stutter in the pit lane, could that lead to some further issues later on in today's race? Meanwhile, it allows Van Velzen to advance to 6th, Galaxy to 7th, and Rodd to 8th. With the current expected pit window in about 6 minutes at the midway of today's race, was the early strategy the right call for O'Driscoll? He'll find out later on down the line. Of course, it's an open strategy here, so it could very well be the case. And now this is a floating theory we have at the moment for Van Velzen as to explain why his pace has been the way that it is. I have a sneaking suspicion he's on full load of fuel. He's fueled up for over an hour's worth of racing, and he's going to pit very late in this race, and where we've seen the opposite employed here by Carlos Dish. He's a lot more spry, in spite of the fact that he now runs 24 kilos over the standard weight. That's not including BOP. Into the pits goes Vermaak and Alexander. That invites Dish up to second as Proger continues to lead, and it has been a dominant stride here by the Bentley. What has been a limited number of appearances by Proger this season under many different aliases, and primarily with Writer Engineering's Gallardo REX, this move to Bentley has been an absolute knockout for the 222, as he now leads by a landslide, and could very well join the history books by the end of this season, becoming the, I believe, fifth unique name, or fifth new name, I should say, in this championship in this particular season to win a race, after we saw brand new wins for Carlos Dish, Fake Galaxy, and Michael Harris. So that'd be the fourth new name. Looking back through the race wins over the course of this season, and that's been one of the most varied number of race winners in this season. There is recent news there, as the grid number now drops down to only 9 cars. This is a concerning sign here, as now Fair Galaxy, currently 5th on the track, finds himself in the scope of a drive-through penalty. And I've got to say it here, and I feel like I've got to speak my mind a little bit off-piste from what you normally come to expect from us from TRTN, but even for a grid of drivers we've seen to be so dedicated as these lot, we do appreciate the ones that are showing up, but when you consider we had 27 available sign-ins, with 37 overall signed in, 10 of which willingly dropped out of today's race and notified us in advance, I think the fact that we're down to only 9 cars here is frankly shocking. Considering how good the season's been, I imagine this spits in the face in terms of the quality the season has had all the way until round 10. And it's, it's a fair point if people don't want to race. That's fair. If you're not in part of the championship and you don't want to race, that's fair. But I think what's been a lot more of a rude thing from these drivers is just to not notify the race control team. You can see on SimGrid when you have a next race coming up. We knew this race was coming, and if we knew this race was coming, it's a likely assumption, if you're using SimGrid, that you knew this race was coming. I just find it particularly shocking there, as we see Fake Galaxy is in, but not to serve a drive-through. Actually, to serve is mandatory, and he'll be serving his drive-through, by looks of it, not later, as he now exits the race, and we're down to 8 cars. So, as if my claim could not get worse here. Now, the DNFs in this race, I can understand. That part seems acceptable, but 8 cars? Really? This is what we're at? I think it also takes away a lot of the mystique here of what has been a fantastic drive by Hayden Proger. The fact that he has been waiting multiple seasons now in these varied appearances to the Sunday League grid to find himself leading a race, to find himself in the possible chance to enter the history books here as the first ever driver to win driving a Bentley. I think it's a bit shocking that we get a grid this small. Now, this is not me having a go at the drivers who DNF from this race. That's, you at least showed up. I'm more on about the drivers who have signed in and then just not shown up. We had 27 available sign-ins, and we have 8 of them as of right now. Multiple have, DNF. That makes sense. In the effort of not trying to bog down the rest of the broadcast, that's the only bit I'm going to really say on that. I do find it particularly quite shocking that it seems that a lot of people just can't be bothered, maybe, to not sign out of these races. And it makes, these drivers, it brings them down. The fact that the grid is this small, it takes away a lot of the mystique of their victories in these races. It makes race control look bad. It makes the league look bad. It's also worth pointing out then, as we drop down to 8 cars, that O'Driscoll is out of this race. We saw in the case there the 420 was out. So that now brings things into a fairly bittersweet state of affairs here. Only 8 cars left to go in this race. And when it comes to the championship, there's only 3 of them that apply. Cass Van Veltzen, Kieran Rod, and Carlos Dish, all 3 of which currently in the top 5. That'll change under strategy with Vermaak and Alexander early runs into the pits. Now, we saw for O'Driscoll in the 420, that was an early pit stop for him, but now he's out of this race. So not that his strategy is going to apply on the larger scale, I think what we're ending up in here is a very bizarre state of affairs to give us the last 3/4 of an hour of this season, and one I'd say is ending on a bit of a sour note when you take a look at the grid numbers. But of course, racing is not defined by the number of drivers in it. It's defined by the quality of the racers on the track. Right now, we've had a pretty good race. I would say this is a decent race, not the best we've seen this season, but we've had some great fights so far. And for the drivers, there is still the chance for the championship, and that's, I think, for them, all that matters. And for us, that should be all that matters as well. With 45 minutes left to go in this race, then we see both Zolt Beefgarner and Carlos Disch into the pit lane in the 5.99 and 5.45. Now, this invites in the opportunity here for Cas van Velzen, currently on his way down through to turn 4. As he stays out onto the halfway mark of the race, so he likely will be coming in on this lap, if not the next. As Carlos Disch emerges now to the track 4th in this race, that'll actually be looking at it here, down to having a glance 7th, as Alan Alexander is up in front of him. Has that been a case where he's been a lap up and ahead? No, you can see now confirmed. Carlos Disch did play for the longer game in the pit lane because he has gone in for what appeared to be tyres as well as fuel. Could this be the method in the madness we were expecting of Van Velzen, where he was going to play for the longer run? He fueled up for well over an hour's worth of racing. Could this be a case? And I think we'll find out in the next 2 laps here if that was the strategy, if we've called this one out in advance, that he's been trying for the longer pit stop, of the shorter pit stop at the longer length of the race. We see here with Van Velzen heading up through to turn 16, now turn 17. This will be the telltale signs in these next couple of laps on if that strategy is the one we're thinking of for him today. Now, it's worth pointing out in the last couple of weeks and few different championships, we've seen late strategies have been on the rise, and some of them have actually started working quite well. Wright, as a matter of fact, in the Competizione Performance League World Series, was able to deliver on his first win of the season at Watkins Glen, leveraging a late strategy where he had, albeit a 2-stop strategy race, was in mandates for that round. It was a case where he had a normal stop at around halfway for fuel and tyres, and then on the second half, because it was open strategy, he waited until the last sort of 15 or so minutes of the race, came in, up on the jacks, off, gone. And that seems to be what could happen today here for Van Velzen, albeit with one less of those stops. He is, by looks of things, going for that later strategy. I'll be genuinely surprised if that turns around and flies in the face of convention. We see there 5-star Jupiter in chat saying, sorry for making you commentate 8 cars. Don't apologise, not your fault. There's 8 cars on the track. Out through turn 12, the 314, up towards Clay Hill. Currently then no remaining fights on track as we do settle in for what is going to be 42.5 minutes of strategy. And now, according to the regulations coming in towards today's race, of course, we had a look back through them earlier on, but having a glance back in, we're in the midst of 90 minutes of races. That single mandatory pit stop, according to what it said on SimGrid, was open strategy, a minimum 3.2 seconds worth of fuel. So to do with it as you please. If he is to add fuel, that's going to be upwards of a 15-second stop in the pit lane, not including the time to get in and get out. But fortunately here at Oulton Park, it is one of the shortest pit lanes in ACC, so you can have a remarkably fast pit stop, even if it is to change tyres and to refuel the car. Now out past the halfway mark of the race here, 41.5 minutes left to go. Proger still in the lead, but Van Velzen second, Rod in third. These three, the last remaining cars to come in for a pit stop. Roger's not yet considered his options for a pit lane run, so he stays out until lap 31 of the race. Van Velzen would be next in consideration, and then Rod, about 4.5 seconds behind him, would be next in line. As it stands then, Van Veltzen stays out, Rod along with him. So it could very well be a case where not one driver is going for the long strategy, it could very well be three. It is worth noting here, just having a glance at the weather, a mist of sorts is starting to descend on this track. And that's done little to deter what has been sweltering heat. I mean, much similar to what we're having today as we're recording this in the UK. Track temperatures north of 30 and ambient temperatures north of 20, 23 ambient, if I'm not mistaken, there reviewing the charts. It's worth noting that mist rolling in because that A could cool the track down and give the tyres a little bit more longevity for the longer runners of this race. It also usually is an early warning sign of rain on the horizon. Now, weather radar showing in the next 30 minutes no chance of rain, but that still leaves a data gap of about 10 minutes. And while it's not impossible to suggest that this is going to be a full dry race, we have seen, especially on the British circuits, both in real life and in virtual, is a case where the weather here can be very sudden. We've seen sudden storm fronts advance onto tracks here in Britain. We've also seen it earlier this season over in France at the Circuit Paul Ricard, where we had a sudden influx of rain in the closing sort of 20 to 15 minutes of the race. So having a look around the track here, Tyler Vermaak set to return to the podium. But where precisely being the mark? Currently, estimates have it at second for the number 8. He's 6.5 seconds up the road from Alan Alexander. Carlos Disch currently 6th and faster than Alexander by nearly a full second in the last lap. So it might be worth catching on board with the 5:45 as he continues to draw the gap closer and closer to his teammate in the 3:15 in front. Down through Cascades, we see here from Carlos Disch, a 4-time race winner in this season. In terms of where that places him in the all-time charts here, he's alongside Cas van Veltzen now in that record, with up in front of him joint sort of a joint third we're seeing between Wesley Kuiper and Jason Bush. 5 wins apiece there. Tyler Vermaak now a definitive second, and Melvin Milliston, the Super Swede, the 2-time champion of this series, 18 race wins, is currently an uncontested leader. Looking in, though, to see now in the paddock is that of Hayden Prodger, otherwise operating as Lord Hesketh Prodgeworth, the 27th in today's race. The 222 now in the paddock, 33 laps strong on that first stint. We'll see if the 314 feels inclined to follow him in the next couple of laps here. Seeing, though, with Kieran Rodd, he'll be next in those considerations. The 314 just up in front of him, so we'll be able to see. And as it would appear, going into the pit lane is Cas van Veltzen. Kieran Rodd electing to stay out and goes up into the lead of this race as Prodger drops off of his jacks and is preparing an exit with Bentley. We see Kieran Rodd now advanced to the lead, as the Bentley was just off in the background there, moving to leave the paddock. Taking a look in with the cars passing him up then. The 222 emerges right up over the nose there, as it would appear, of Tyler Vermaak, who now has a track limits infraction leading to a drive-through penalty. Difference in strategy brought him so close here to what was an arguable lead of this race, and now a drive-through penalty has befell him in this time and has moved to 3rd, and that is going to cause quite an upset here for that number 8, as that could see him drop down to the back of the top 5. Now, it's a fairly short run through the pit, so it's not anywhere near as detrimental a penalty as it would be on some other circuits earlier in the season, as Cas van Veltzen is now in the paddock. A long stop for him here, and that's not worked the way that he would hope it would, because he drops in now behind Carlos Disch, albeit only 2 positions as it would stand. There's, of course, the fears of what happens for Kieran Rodd's move to the pit lane, where that lands the rest of the grid. We know for a fact that Prodger will be moving back into the lead of this race. He's only 5.2 seconds out on the last interval, with Vermaak 1.4 seconds, but with that drive-through penalty, that is going to allow for an advance up north of his current position for Carlos Disch. And if this is the possible Deus Ex Machina that invites the 545 up onto the podium, this could spell some serious troubles for the discussion of the overall championship title. Into the pit lane then goes Tyler Vermaak. We'll see this very sudden dart into the pits. It's a very short stop for the run in through. Alan Alexander now on the opening straight off the exit of turn 17. And we see behind him there is Carlos Dish. That could still be another position for him as he's only 1.8 seconds out. We've seen in the last couple of laps here for the 545 has been a recent advance on the 315 in front. As Vermaak leaves the pit lane, he drops in behind that of Zolt Beefgartner, who now advances to the top 5. As he himself drops down to 6th. Van Velzen on that longer stop. This is a gamble for him that has just not paid off right now because it could very well see him out of the championship run. Carlos Dish now 1.6 seconds. It's a matter of not if but when we see him alongside. It's also worth considering here, still yet to have made his appearance to the pits, is Kieran Rodd, and by the way it stands at the moment for him, he will be the catalyst that brings Dish to the podium. With Van Velzen currently 7th, taking a look at where that affects things in terms of scoring. 3rd place for Carlos Dish would net him 30 points. That's over the 7th place that currently stands for Cas Van Velzen. So there's still, as it stands, and this is rather miraculous to see, there is still the discussion of a 12-point gap. 7th will give him 18th. And it is worth pointing out this is ever so slightly different for... Actually, no, it isn't for the overall. So just having a glance in there. Yes, it is still the same. 7th place will get him 18 points. And 3rd will get him 30th. As a matter of fact here, we do actually have the scoring charts to consult on our right-hand side. And this is currently where it stands. When Kieran Rodd comes into the pit lane, which we know is going to happen at some point in this race... That's going to allow Carlos Dish up towards a 3rd place. That could very soon be 2nd. It is worth pointing this out as the gap continues to slim down between Alexander and Dish. You can see these two now sharing the same stretch of tarmac for the run in towards turn 4 and 5. If he gets up in towards 2nd, that's 35 points over 7th place, which is currently 18 points for Cas Van Velzen. Doing the rough maths there. That is, I mean, it's scarily close is what we're seeing right now. Having just a quick glance into what that's going to roughly look like here. That's a 17-point gap. So right now, that will equalize. And if we go down to it being tied on points here, that'll be then tallied up by race wins, with Van Velzen only having 1 this season, and then with Carlos Dish having 4. That would put Dish in the championship title. So all of a sudden here, as if by magic, we now find ourselves in the most perilous of situations for Van Velzen's hopes of a championship. This has been, and I've been saying it from the start, his most competitive start to the Sunday League we have ever seen here. He has led every single round in the championship standings from the start, and he's the first ever to do so. But right now, that could all be for nothing if he loses the championship on this round. With Carlos Dish less than a second away from Alan Alexander. And as it would stand here, Kieran Rodd about to be overtaken by the Bentley of Hayden Proger before he's even had the opportunity to come into the pit lane. Van Velzen's championship chances might collapse in the next 10 minutes. When you consider as well that Alan Alexander does not have a stake in this championship, either of them, when you consider rookies or the overall championship. He found himself out of the runnings for it a few rounds ago for the overall, and he is himself no longer a rookie, having fought valiantly through last season's Rookies Championship with Porsche, becoming the first ever rookie to win a race outright. Is there going to be that possible consideration in the back of his mind? Maybe do I allow him to roll over here? Do we have a case where Dish gets the championship? Because the 315 right now, off of his own volition, whether he chooses to continue defending or move over, has the control of the championship in his hands. And this could not be a more dramatic turn of events on what is a very small grid. We thought now, considering where we stood heading into these last couple of minutes of this race, the next 30 minutes to follow, as it would stand, that this would be an uneventful end to what has been an otherwise fantastic championship. But think again, as we mentioned before, and I hate to sound like a broken record, but on the rule of threes, we have a small grid, but the racing is mighty. Down through to turn 1. And this is possibly the most stressed I think we've ever been here in the commentary seat, watching on with a fight that could very well decide the championship out of the hands of one of its possible contenders that finds themselves far down the order, astray from the rest of the field, down in 7th. There are two key variables to consider here when you see now the fight for the lead between Proger and Rod. Getting a look on board with these two as they make their way down through to Britain's. Going on behind them is the build-up into a fight for what is currently 3rd, will soon be the fight of 2nd when Kieran Rod comes into the pit lane. Watching here, Proger will have that leading position off of the Mustang, whether he likes it or not. It's just a case of, does he get it here on track or does he get it from the pit lane? 0.4 of a second then. 2 V8 juggernauts at the front of the field. 2 more V8s out behind them. We now see, I believe, yes, it has dropped now to 7 cars left in this race, as Ben Cheeseman withdraws from round 10. Two key fights going on in the meantime here. Bentley versus Ford up at the front of the field, and Ford versus Mercedes out behind them on the second row. It's side by side, and nearly a spot of contact there between Proger and Rod as they go 2 abreast down through turn 1 in towards turn 2. Into Cascades now, turn 3. The Bentley clawing for position. He's got the pace for it, but does he have the room on a track that requires a very small type of car? To have 2 of the largest in GT3 go head-to-head is a perilous sight here at Oulton Park. Side by side in towards turn 5 at the Shell Oils. Nothing as of yet. But there we see its contact, and it was definitely a spot of desync that brought that one out between the 222 and the 61. Getting a look on the replays. What has been a very bizarre turn of events there. There is a sort of degree of amnesty you could grant to Proger given the situation here, because how is he supposed to predict an opponent he can barely see when you see the amount of desync that's been at play for this 61? This is going to be a tough one to decide by race control. It does seem to be a case, though, there wasn't a great deal the 222 could do with a car in front of him lagging as much as he was. You could make the argument maybe he could have backed off from fighting with him, but when looking at it on paper, that just wouldn't have made an awful lot of sense. Looking in now with the remaining fight of the field, as we see Alan Alexander still defending what is soon to be 2nd place away from Carlos Disch. With Van Velzen still stuck down in 7th place, he's preying on misfortune up in front of him, because even one position here will bring him back in to championship contention, because he knows what's going to happen. He knows that there is this great degree of dread now surrounding this grid, because it is one move here from Carlos Disch away from losing the championship. Alan Alexander, though, is not a driver we often see moving over, rolling over and allowing positions to pass him by. There may be a championship going on behind him between 2 of his teammates, but the race here is his to play for. We'll see, though, just how far he's willing to toe the line. Up in front of him, continued connection troubles here for Kieran Rod. And now with damages, there is likely the consideration as he moves over to allow these 2 on through at Britain's. With those damages to consider, Rod could be the catalyst that brings Van Velzen back into the championship. Because as it would stand, the current doomsday scenario for that 314, after having led every single round in the championship standings coming up into today, if the 545 gets up in front of the 315, the Mercedes of Alan Alexander here, being pursued by Carlos Disch, and Disch moves up into 2nd. If Van Velzen maintains a 7th place position on this grid... Oh, wait, hang on. Yes, yes. So if Disch moves up to 2nd, and Van Velzen stays in 7th, that is a points gap of 17 points. Which is exactly what is needed to go level on points. That would later then be decided by number of race wins. Carlos Disch has 4, Van Velzen has 1 in the span of Season 5 alone. Meaning, if it goes down to that on a joint points decision, that would give Disch the championship. To explain some more about this, having a look here at the odds for this race. Now, we said there originally for Diesch to become champion, he would have to outscore Van Velzen by 18 points. That was somewhat of a white lie because 17 points would actually be more than enough because it would later be evaluated on number of race wins. The 1 point over would stop that from needing to be a stage of it. As it stands right now, we are dangerously close to history in the making. Carlos Diesch stands upon the chances here, one position between himself and becoming not only a champion in this series, but the first rookie to win both championships since the inception of the rookies division a season ago. We see, though, running up over the curbs at turn 12, he's lost a lot of ground. Carlos Diesch now forced down 7/10 of a second away from Alan Alexander after upset off the exit of his lops. 24 minutes left to go. The current odds are if Diesch stays in third and Van Velzen stays in seventh, Van Velzen will get the championship. Alternatively, if Diesch can get second and Van Velzen still in seventh, then Diesch will get the championship. Now into the pit lane goes Kieran Rodd. This is what could very well decide the championship hopes for Cas Van Velzen. He's on his way down towards Druids at this time at turn 15. Rodd's in the pit lane. We don't know yet how long will the 61 stay on the jacks. We've seen already out past up into the top 5 goes Tyler Vermack with 5-star esports McLaren. But now, all hopes rely here on the 314, and since the 61 still has yet to drop off the jacks, Van Velzen could be back in for the fight of the championship, regardless of what goes on between Diesch and Alexander, and that would be the case as Van Velzen is back to 6th. This has been possibly the most important pit stop for him, and it wasn't even in the 314, it was from one of his teammates, Kieran Rodd, in the number 61, who, as it appears there, will wave goodbye to his championship endeavors in the rookies, will still advance up to the pros in the overall championship for season 6, but missed out on his opportunity to take the rookies championship. Currently, as it would stand from where they stand on track, Diesch will have it in the next 23 minutes, unless he DNFs. That's the only possible consideration that would keep him from the rookies. For Van Velzen, this has been joy and jubilation to see that he is back up to 6th. The gap between Alexander and Diesch is now at 1.2, just shy of 1.3 seconds. We'll see what that looks like now as they cross in to lap 42. It's 1.2 seconds between the Mercedes and the Ford. Getting a glance in then on the scoring charts to see how that concerns things at the forefront of the championship. It is worth noting that there is a few stutters for connection, and we are well out past the halfway mark, so if anything were to happen in this race now, that would still be called off. There would not be a rerun, as in line with regulations set in stone by race control. Taking a look at the scoring and how that would affect the championship standings here for Carlos Diesch and Cas Van Velzen. We are now back in well acceptable thresholds here. If Carlos Diesch is able to get up into second place, there would be a points difference between himself and Cas Van Velzen of 14 points, meaning Van Velzen would have the championship away by 3 points. The only way that Diesch could turn that around if he was to get up into second place would be to have the fastest lap, which right now it still resides in the hands of the number 222, that being Hayden Prodger, otherwise Lord Hesketh Prodgeworth the 27th. And this is the most tense 21 minutes of racing I think these drivers have seen all season, because this is one that could heavily decide their place in the history books in the NLRL Sunday League, powered by Malwar Transport, as we head now out past its 5th season. 54 races, with this being race number 55 in the history of this championship. And seeing here with Alexander and Diesch getting a look on board with the 545 as he now really gets the burner on. He needs now every chance he can get to claim not only that fastest lap, but second place off of his teammate. It's not been an easy road for him so far, so I highly doubt the next 20 minutes is going to give him anything closer in terms of difficulty. Looking in here, the 545 still in pursuit over the 315. In towards Britain's. Turns 7, 8 and 9. Now on the run up Hilltop. Super tight section of the track here. It's really who dares wins on the run in towards Hislops. In towards turns 10, 11 and 12. But running wide there. Having caught a bit of grass on his left-hand side. Carlos Dish hemorrhages more time away from Alan Alexander. Something that's worth considering here. 4.4 seconds away. We'll be the first to know about it if these two got into any kind of prang for control of second. Would be Zolt Beefgartner with TSRC Esports Lexus. Out through Druids. 20 minutes left to go in this race. And it has been a very, very small grid to give us the end of the season. A surprisingly small grid. 7 cars left after today. We started with 13 cars. We are now to nearly half of that amount. As we did see a momentary blip from the paddock there. We see, as it stands, Hayden Prodger in the lead, Alan Alexander in second, Carlos Dish in third, Zolt Beefgartner in fourth, Tyler Vermack in fifth, Cass Van Velsen in sixth, and Kieran Rod in seventh. Out through Cascades. Seeing here with Dish in his continued fight for second. Heading in towards Hislops again. So this is where we saw an area of difficulty for Carlos Dish in that last lap. Now we see was the case for the car in front of him, but a big bounce from there off the exit of turn 12 up towards turn 13. Continues to keep that gap north of half a second. We see there in chat as well from Cookie1420, Alonso and Petrol Flashback. Yes, it really, really is in this case, because up until very recently was the case that Dish would have needed this one overtake to put him in the championship charge, to put him on the top step, level on points, and then that would be assessed over number of race wins. And taking a look back through the season, this has really been one to remember for Carlos Dish, albeit his first season in the NLRL Sunday League. Stands upon the chances to become the first ever rookie to win outright. But right now, that's been snuffed by only a few points, as Van Velsen holds sixth, Dish currently in third. That would place them, having a look back on the point scoring charts there, at a tally of points of only 9 in difference, bringing what was a 17-point gap down to only 6 at the end of this championship if they stay where they are. Neither of them hold the fastest lap so far. It's worth pointing that out also. Alexander has put on an exemplary defensive performance as well. Has foregone the conventions of working alongside his teammates. He knows the gloves are off and this is their fight, not his. We'll see exactly if Dish is willing to toe the line even further in on the run down towards Hislop. Still nothing there between the two. Too close to each other to try and go for a too-wide run in towards Hislops. That would end in disaster for the pair of them, and that would give a very big grin to the face of Zolt Beefgartner. Currently fourth by 3.6 seconds. Would be the first to know about these two getting into some kind of incident. That gap, it is also worth pointing out, has come down from 4.4 seconds. So he's slowly but surely chipping away on that podium on the run down towards turn 16 and turn 17. We see running out wide, though, at turn 16. Now through Deer Leap at turn 17. Carlos Dish now 4 tenths away. In the last lap, you can see that he was faster by 55 thousandths over Alan Alexander. 134.945 to a 135 dead. These two so incredibly close to each other on pace. Mercedes and Ford head-to-head here. Up towards turn 4, the Island Bend has claimed so many already over the course of this session. It's in part of the reason why we're down to only 7 cars left in this race. Out through turn 5. Heading in towards Britain's, and you can see the ferocity on display here from the 545 so late onto the brakes. Carlos Dish has thrown the kitchen sink into this performance, trying absolutely everything he can to take second place here. He knows the Rookies Championship is his for the taking, but he's got his mind already set on the overall championship, and really with ambitions like his, you can't go wrong. But the 545 finds himself, by nature of the fact that he doesn't have enough points between himself and Van Velzen at this time, shy of the championship by only a handful of points. 6 as it currently stands if he's to finish in third. We ran the maths on it as well, with both of the drivers having already used up their drop points on rounds that would have had much worse off results. Neither of them will see this round dropped under the drop point system. Certainly not the case here for Carlos Diesch, who's in third. For Van Velzen being in sixth, his worst result, I believe, was, I want to say 21st, and then his second worst was 14th. That Ford is really fighting him back now. I do watch between my fingers every time he goes down through Cascades, because there is a 50-50 chance here. That car just kicks him out into the grass. Once you're on the grass, you're a passenger, and there is very little telling what happens to you thereafter. That could collapse his chances even more. Out through turn 5 is now nearly a full second south of Alan Alexander. Looking up towards the front of the field here, Hayden Proger. A driver with quite a lot of history in TRTM. We've covered him as far back as he was known as NWR Skyler when he competed over on the TRR F1 Virtual for Alpha Tauri, if I remember correctly. This driver, we've seen him around the block many a time. He's been away from us for some time here, having moved over to the big leagues in PC, but on his brief trip back to console, he has brought with him this serious pedigree for driving and a serious markup of the last couple of appearances he's had. He was competitive in his limited number in the last few seasons here on the Sunday League, but this is unparalleled from that 222. And those blips again to the paddock, where we're seeing some connection troubles, fills me with quite a degree of dread here. Fastest lap, 1:33.577. That's by Hayden Proger, operating today as Lord Hesketh Prodsworth, the 27th, one of 3 acting aliases he's had in the last couple of weeks, outside of Haydenio Progenio and Hayden van der Progen. Why he chooses to do this, not a clue, but it's very funny. Down through turn 4. Actually, turn 3, my mistake there. I was getting ahead of myself. At turn 3, in through Cascades, now down towards turn 4 at the Island Bend. We're seeing here from Diesch versus Alexander, it getting closer and closer and closer. But the problem with that, he's in the dirty air, and a car that is already actively trying to kill him and has attempted it multiple times already. There's this certain unease watching these two this close to one another, knowing how much of this race he has spent trying now to claw back position off of Alexander, with server conditions worsening by the second. We're seeing a few blips in and out of it there. We still find ourselves currently in the tow, actually now down to 6 cars, with Van Velzen up to 5th. And into the grass goes Carlos Diesch, as the recent disconnect was the Lexus. It was Zolt Beefgartner with TSRC Esports. We're seeing their server conditions are on the fritz here. There may need to be a step in by race control. Of course, they're very hesitant to do so, considering it intervenes with the championship, and that's the last thing they want to do. Of course, this wouldn't be the first time that connection troubles have withheld us from the last round. Season 2, round 10 was the last time this happened in Monza. That ultimately ended under a red flag. The race was unable to get underway, and the championship was gifted over towards the, at the time, leader, Jason Bush. As much as we're watching the race between our fingers at the moment, I can only imagine the stress going on over at race control. They are really hoping the worst does not come to pass here. 11.5 minutes left to go in what has been a very uneasy race here in the NLRL Sunday League. One that ultimately holds some of the highest stakes for some of its drivers left in this 6-car pack. We'll leave you on board with Carlos Diesch. We'll return to you in just a moment's time here as they make the run, I should say not the run up through Britain's in towards his locks. Continuing to watch in here with Deesh versus Alexander. The current tally of the grid still at 6 cars after the most recent disconnect then by Zolt Beefgarner. TSRC Esports' Lexus now out of round 10. With it, has sweetened the deal, really, for Cas van Velten, advancing the Dutchman up towards 5th, even closer to Carlos Deesh's rival in Season 5's championship, but things are still held at arm's length for the fight of 2nd. 9 minutes left to go here in Oulton Park. Currently leading the race then Hayden Proger by 18 seconds over Alan Alexander in 2nd. Carlos Deesh on your screens at the moment still fighting with Alan Alexander for 2nd. He's 3rd in the number 545, leading the rookies charge and on for a rookies championship title by the end of this race. Tyler Vermaak in 4th and Cas van Velten in 5th. Kieran Rod in 6th. Down through the cascade, still 0.3 of a second apart. Now consulting the scoring charts once again to give us some rough numbers on what to expect in terms of the championship standings, regardless now of if he can advance to 2nd. With Van Velten being in 5th, that will net him the championship. Oh, it's contact though between the 315 and the 545. A bit of a nudge there on the rear bumper of the Mercedes as Alan Alexander scoots to try and get some of the heat back at his tyres and scrub the tyres of some of the marbling he's collected from being on the outside at turn 5. See in the background there the McLaren of Tyler Vermaak. Now to take the current scenario into consideration, 30 points for 3rd place and 24 points for 5th. It's only an advance of 6 points. That would leave him 11 points astray of the championship title, but he would still win in the rookies. Now, conversely, 2nd place, 35 points. to 24. That's a current itinerary of, looking here, 11 points difference between the two. As it would stand, would still leave him 6 points out from the championship. So close yet so far away here in the case of Carlos Deesh. That is not to diminish what has been a formidable season here by the Swiss talent, the first ever Swiss driver to win in this series. Yellow flags out for the number 61. Is there the dread we could see only a 5-car grid to the checkered flag? It is certainly likely because he's back into the paddock there. Kieran Rod, after trouble down at turn 5, is back into the pit lane. Our current run of drivers could very well tip down to 5 in the lowest number this grid has ever seen. But of those 5 drivers, 2 of which still contend for the championship. I'll be honest with you folks, I'm at a loss for words for how low the numbers on the grid are getting. I've seen late season fatigue before that has brought grid numbers down to a fairly small, pitiful amount, but 5 cars, this is a far, far cry. We were 40 cars strong in round 1 of the championship. And it's a case here that there are more people in the Twitch chat right now, at this second, watching this stream than there are drivers on the track. Now, that's often a statistic that gets passed up routinely. That's not much a surprise. But when it's only 5 people, it's definitely a bit of a concern. That's not taken away, though, from what has been a fantastic bit of racing between these two here. Carlos Deesh versus Alan Alexander. I think what makes this a bit of a bitter note to end the season on is the fact that with Proger on his charts right now, 5.5 minutes from the end of this race to become the first driver ever to win racing for Bentley, with a mixture of negligence from drivers not declaring, not attending. We've only had 10 people sign out of 27 sign-ups, 37 in total, so of course 10 of which signed out. We had expectant 27 people. We ended up with 13 for the race start. We've had multiple DNFs, and now we've had recently disconnects from drivers like Beefgarner. That's, of course, not something we're having a go at. That's not something he can control, but it's still a factor to consider. We're now down to only 5 cars. It never should have gotten this low. Of course, we still don't know 100% yet if Rod will come back out on track, but considering the fact he was towed back into the pits, we won't know that answer until we get onto the last couple of laps here in Oulton Park. Watching still as they are razor thin to one another. They're bumper to bumper between the 545 and the 315. Looking to go 2 abreast on the run in towards Hislops. It's do or die here for Carlos Dish, and going long around the outside at turn 11. On the inside now, in towards turn 12. It was a heroic effort by him, but great defense from the Mercedes to hold ground. And we do see as well, Beef Gardner is back on the grid as we see side-by-side action up through Clay Hill in towards Wartower, turn 14, then Druids at turn 15, onto the grass goes Carlos Dish. Washed out from the fight between himself and Alan Alexander. 4 minutes left to go here at Oulton Park. We're back up to 7 cars with the reconnect of Zolt Beefgartner. Adamant to see the checkered flag. That's the kind of grit and determination this grid could do with a lot more of in today's round. And these are the faithful 7 that still remain on this circuit. And they have seen hell and high water this season, but only 2 will be called champion. Right now, we're on board here with Carlos Dish, who's only minutes away from becoming the 2nd ever NLRL Sunday League Rookies champion after William Bajor last season. And his time driving for VEC Esports with Ford. Euro Titans, not only having claimed on the team's championship this season, may also find a driver winning in the Rookies. In towards Britain's. And as it stands, it is world domination here by the Euro Titans endurance team. They've won in the team's championship right now, with Cas van Veltzen looking likely to win the overall drivers championship. He's one of their mainstay drivers at the moment, and their most recent signing here, Carlos Dish, is about to win in the Rookies. It is a clean sweep, something we have, I think, never seen before since the introduction of the Rookies, where all 3 bases have been covered. Now, we have seen it to be the case with the drivers and teams. That was for Melvin Milliston and Velocity Racing. But a clean sweep like this is unheard of. It'll also be the first time, if Van Veltzen can claim on the championship here, that we will have had a driver compete from the start of the season to the end, leading every single round, not having dropped a single position in the standings. Diving for the pit lane goes Alan Alexander. Carlos Dish is up to 2nd. 2 minutes left to go here in Oulton Park. A sudden shock decision by Mercedes, bringing in the 315. Coming to a stop then is Alan Alexander in the pit lane. Is he out of fuel by chance? There can't be many other explanations for it. And as we see here, the 314, rounding turn 16 and turn 17, dropping off the jacks, goes Alan Alexander. This could bring Van Veltzen in towards 4th place. He's just around the corner here off of turn 17, as in towards turn 1 goes Alan Alexander. We see emerging round turn 1, just off in the distance there is Cas van Veltzen. 1.5 minutes left to go for the 222. We are emerging onto the last lap of this race. As it would stand, yes, to confirm that to 5-star Jupiter in chat. The championship right now, Cass is for the overall. Dish is looking at the Rookies, but we'll wait to see what it all reads out as when we hit the checkered flag. Not many cars left to see to the line, of course, as down towards the line to start the last lap of this race. Still holding strong in the lead with the fastest lap, the 222 Bentley of Hayden Prodger in towards turn 1. A man who has gone by many names over the course of his return to the Sunday League here in Season 5. He's gone by Progenio, he's gone by Van der Progen, and now goes by Prodsworth. We know him as Hayden Prodger, and you'll soon know him as the first driver to win with Bentley. On his run up through turn 3, now to turn 4. More blips there for the server in the closing minute of this race. Hold out just a little bit longer before the servers collapse in. In towards turn 5, a race against time then for Hayden Prodger. Meanwhile, the last of the fights have dissipated between the 315 and the 545 up through to Britain's. We follow on board here with Hayden Prodger. This has been a long time in the works here. We've seen him with a few different manufacturers, and we've seen his first ever GT4 win, but don't begin the celebrations too early on the run down towards the Hislops chicane. Up through Clay Hill. Only a few corners away, sinking into the moment here, knowing this one has been a long time in the works, while the grid around him has been rather unorthodox. This has been a by-the-books knockout of a race here for Hayden Prodger, making his way down through to turn 16 and turn 17. As you see it in round 10 of Season 5, the first ever Bentley to take the checkered flag first among the fray is driven by none other than Hayden Prodger, who wins in Oulton Park. An unmistakable performance, history forged here on track. The latest of the winner's circle, a fourth new name of the Sunday League here in Season 5. After Deesh, after Galaxy, and after Harris is Prodger. Across the line then, Carlos Deesh across the line to become your second ever Rookies Champion in the NLRL Sunday League. An unmistakable drive for this one. Brilliant, brilliant stuff there. Championship wonders in the Rookies division, but seeing down towards the line, the 314 is only a few corners away, now trailing in the midst of the 315. As the points tally would have it, second from fifth will keep him in the championship charge, and making his way down towards turn 16 and turn 17. It's been an odd race so far for Van Velzen, but as he hits the checkered flag, it's championship glory at last. Cas Van Velzen is a champion in the Sunday League. It is one of the rare sights to see here. A race end with such a short number of cars. 6 to the checkered flag of 13 entered. But at long last for Van Velzen, he's been in the runner-up position for 2 seasons on the run, from Season 3 and Season 4. Runner-up no longer. Van Velzen is your Season 5 champion. Celebrating alongside his teammates Kieran Rod and Alan Alexander. Euro Titans, of course, having claimed on the team's championship last weekend in Monza. And as it happens then, 2 champions crowned for the price of 1. Carlos Deesh, your, not 2026, we've already had racing in the last season here, but your Season 5 Rookies Champion is Carlos Deesh. Your Season 5 Drivers Champion is Cas Van Velzen. A clean sweep for Euro Titans, winning on all fronts. Teams and both Drivers' Championships. And this has been nothing short of world-class domination here. And what is the iron vice that is the NLRL Sunday League has given plenty of brutal races for these drivers over the season. Prodger collects on his first ever victory on the last round, not to be overshadowed by 2 championship crowned from behind him there. Carlos Deesh for the Rookies, Cas Van Velzen for the overall Drivers' Championship. What joy. Celebrating in the grass then, we see from a few of the Euro Titans cars, in fact all of the remaining Euro Titans cars. And we see there Prodger in chat saying, why must all my wins be tainted by illegitimacy? I would not put even a single foot in the circle of illegitimacy when it comes to describing that race win. Had there been 20 cars, had there been 6 cars, or had there been 3 cars, you had the pace more than necessary to be a race winner. So I would never look upon a victory like this in the sort of light that you are there. I would probably pick yourself up a little bit more than I think you give yourself credit for. Prodger, your overall race winner here in round 10, but your 2 champions, Cas Van Velzen in the 314 for the overall Drivers' Championship, and celebrating alongside him then is Carlos Deesh, your Season 5 Rookies Champion. We'll be getting a word in then from both of them in the next couple of minutes. We'll also be hoping to get a word then out of Ben Meredith, the team principal for the Euro Titans Endurance ACC division, in the hopes to get a chat out of him in a moment's time. But what joy there has been for Euro Titans this season. Unmistakable stuff. And so I think with interviews in order here, we'll also be having both champions present with us for the reveal of Season 6's calendar. As things start to tick down, we'll be back to you in just a moment's time as we get ready to reveal the wheel. Do bear with us then as we bring everything up. We'll be getting first interviews out of both champions, then hopefully getting a word out of Ben Meredith, the TP for the Euro Titans Endurance ACC division. Then we'll get on to the calendar read. So do just bear with us here whilst we get everything sorted out. So coming up next will be our interview with the Season 5 Drivers' Champion, Cas van Velzen. So we're here with Season 5's Drivers' Champion, Cas van Velzen. Cas, how are you feeling then? This must have been a long time coming for you.
Yeah, long time coming, of course. Been runner-up a couple of seasons now, so very, very happy to finally seal it and get the champion.
This has to have been one of the greatest feelings since your time in the Sunday League. You've been so close to the top of those championship charts for so long. And this has been, I would definitely put a good foot forward to say this has been your most competitive season on record. Led every step of the championship, every round. This is the first we've ever seen of it. This is history forged right here at round 10. You there?
It's an amazing feeling, of course. Starting from round 1, P1, winning it. It's just an amazing feeling. And then just be consistent all season was very hard. Of course, people come and go in the championship, that has to be in my luck. But of course, with the coming of Carlos Disch, give me a little bit more competitiveness and keep me on my edge. But luckily, I prevailed and got the championship done and dusted.
Well, the best of congratulations to you, Cas. This has been one that we've been calling since the start of the season. We've been saying it for the longest time that this was the likeliest we would have had to your championship charge, and I think it is a wonderful thing to see now. You join the championship charts as your own hat enters the ring there alongside drivers like Bush, like LeBay, and like Millerstone. I mean, this has got to be fantastic for you.
I feel very honored, of course, but Millerstone still has the most wins, and that's my next objective, to take that away from him.
Well, look forward to seeing that one. Any news on what you might be picking into Season 6?
I'm debating to go back to Mercedes or Porsche. Not a lot is new for now. Still deciding.
Well, nonetheless, what a fantastic season it's been for you. All the best for you, and enjoy the rest of your evening. This has got to be a big moment for you.
Yes, thank you very much. Hope everyone enjoyed the race. So,
all the best to you. Take care. So that was your Season 5 Drivers' Champion, Cas van Velzen. Next coming up will be a word in with the Rookies Champion, Carlos Disch, who has had a sensational drive since his late entry into the season at Zolder. Round 3, I believe, of the championship. We'll get a word in with him in just a moment's time. Now, next up, we have the Rookies Champion for Season 5, Carlos Disch. Carlos, how are you feeling?
Yeah, pretty good. That was a very difficult race. I'm not gonna lie. I had a lot of issues with my tires, and just generally, it was a very long race as well. And if you make just one small mistake, you end up getting punished so hard, so quickly. But yeah, other than that, I'm feeling pretty good. I won rookies and sadly missed out on the overall, but next season I can definitely fight for it.
I have it on good authority to believe the sort there, Carlos. I mean, it was a late entry into the championship, a few rounds down when you entered in at Zolder, and the fact that you've still been able to come up through not only within the first couple of rounds, your second appearance to the grid, if I remember correctly, to where you took your first 2 back-to-back race wins. Moreover, went on to then take 4 over the course of the season and then be within arm's length for the championship. Not many drivers can say they've done what you've done.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it was honestly, I tried the Mustang for the first time and I found it quite easy to use, and I realized I can be very fast with it pretty quickly. And I've enjoyed it a lot. And even in the rain, it was very solid. And yeah, I'm very happy about those first wins. And Zolder was a good race as well. And then when Bathurst came, luckily for me, Galaxy crashed twice, I think. Or I got lucky somehow in both of the races and managed to win them both. And other than that, it's been pretty solid. I've driven pretty well. There's been a few moments where, obviously, if you remember Hungary, I completely lost my head. And I was punished for it as well. But other than that, it has been a very nice season and I'm quite happy with it.
Well, still, it has been an unmistakable performance from you, and I'm thoroughly excited to see what you can do over the course of Season 6. We asked the same to Cass. Do you have any possible considerations on car? Will you be staying with Ford for the next season, or are you thinking of maybe some other options?
No, I'm definitely going to use something else. I want to use something mid or rear engine just because I haven't done that much yet on this game. And I was thinking maybe Honda, but that also depends on the tracks because I know there's some tracks where it's extremely difficult to drive fast.
You said
But
Honda?
if not something, yeah, Honda.
Oh, wow, okay. When we saw there was a bit of trouble for Honda in this race, Clement Quentin Laltram had a lot of stability issues. Would that be something that you'd be very keen to try and address if you were to drive for Honda?
Yeah, I've driven it a bit before, but I haven't been very successful with it. But there's some tracks where I can be very fast with it, but I struggle a lot with just general consistency. It's very oversteery. As soon as you turn into a corner, the rear just wants to go. So it's something you have to drive very carefully. And I kind of want to challenge the complete opposite of the Mustang. So I'll see. If not, it'll be something different, like maybe a Porsche or a Lamborghini.
Well, Carlos, it has been a fantastic season for you. All the best for you today, and what a fantastic last couple of weeks it's been for you on the rise up through the ranks and be this close to the championship standings. Again, no one currently on this grid can say they've done what you've done, so really do enjoy what's been of this season. We look forward to seeing you into Season 6.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to it as well. I can't wait to see what tracks are going to be on. And yeah, it's generally quite excited now.
Yeah, we'll be having you on in a little while's time. We're going to have a quick chat in the next couple of minutes with Ben Meredith, your new TP, of course, because since you'll move from 5-star over to Euro Titans. So we'll be chatting with him, and then we'll have you and Cass back on, and then we'll get into the reveal of that calendar where you'll be involved. You'll have as much a voice as Cass does. There's 2 categories there, the Rookies Champion Choice and the Overall Champions Choice. You guys will be able to pick a track of your own, so we do look forward to seeing that. Until then, though, we're going to go and have a chat now with the team principal of Euro Titans. All the best to you. Very well done this season.
All right, thank you very much. See you in a bit.
Take care. So that was Carlos Dees, your Rookies Champion for Season 5. Now, next up to speak with is Ben Meredith, one of the team principals of the Euro Titans Endurance team, the manager of the Endurance ACC division. Let's see how things are over at the joyous state of affairs at Euro Titans for this season. More on that in a moment. Now on board with us at the moment then is Ben Meredith, one of the team principals of the Euro Titans Endurance team. Ben, how are you feeling with the team having such a success they've had this season?
Honestly, it's just amazing. We came into the season thinking that, let's have a little bit of fun. Let's get some good results. But the season that we've had is could not describe any words. The only thing I'm slightly gutted for is seen the provisional standings that we finished on 995 points, just 5 points away from the big 1K. So close, but it's a target for next season for us.
And are you reckoning that you could become the first team to go on consecutive runs of things here? I mean, it was an ultra competitive run in Season 5. No one's arguing with that. But what is the plans for Season 6?
Plans really is we've had such a great season so far. We've been able to pull off, as you said in the season, like so many wins we're able to get, and also the caliber of drives we've been able to get in. Obviously, as you mentioned, getting very, very fortunate to bring in the likes of Carlos and Galaxy into our team, and also helping develop the drivers we've got already: Skeno, Kieran, Brooklyn, Alan, and of course Big Cass. Can never forget about Big Cass. Just sort of how we've been able to. I think the best way I could really describe is what I say to a lot of people is we're the most unserious, serious team out there. We come up here, we have fun, and we just find this a great way to just motivate each other. It's like we've got such a great, I was going to say a great bunch of lads, but I've just seen what Alan's just typed into the chat. So I'm going to retract my statement and say that Alan's a great driver. He's just a very mid driver, but
I've seen it as well.
Yeah. He said he was going to send it in earlier. I didn't actually think he would do it.
But yeah, I suppose what you're saying there, it does hold a lot of weight. It is sort of a case where you guys, you don't take yourselves particularly seriously, but when it comes to putting pen to paper, getting drivers on the track, it's a very serious endeavour, and not many teams can say they've been able to do what you guys have been able to do over the course of Season 5. Both drivers' championships are from drivers in the Euro Titans Endurance division, and now, of course, the team's championship to wrap all of that up last week in Monza. I mean, this is unheard of. We're on a real running streak here of firsts, with Van Velzen holding every round of the championship in the lead. He's the first driver ever to do that. And then, of course, with the signing of Carlos Disch, now you also have drivers having taken their first ever wins by nationality, the first Swiss talent to ever win in this series, and now you've got him on your roster. I mean, it has been world domination in this sense, has it not?
It really has, and it's just amazing to think that all we ever did, like in the past, what we've held on better than anything was our consistency. And you can see that through looking at some of the results of some of our drivers this year. We haven't necessarily had, like, obviously we've had Carlos and Cass getting the wins, but I can't believe I actually have to say this on the stream, but the consistency we get from the likes of Kieran and from Alan as well, the amount of consistency they do, they're not necessarily always the guys that get the big results, but they're there, and that's what we always try to make is our main thing as a team that we do. We get in there, we get those results, and eventually those results will come towards us, and then being able to have sort of a bit of way that bringing in the likes of Carlos, Galaxy, and all them means now that our top the drivers that we've got now have an extra goal to aim for. So, like, I want to get to their level. I want to get to the points they can achieve. So it's really what we do as part of the team that, especially throughout these races, you have like a good 6, 7, 8 of us in the call together whilst we race. We're giving each other good shout outs throughout the way, saying like, oh, there's a crash in this corner, gives all of our drivers near the back a little bit of a chance to react to it. And then, of course, we very much prided ourselves on just coming up with the idea of doing the parade lap, and then unfortunately that's getting a few extra additions to it that was not what we agreed on. We didn't agree on letting others join our parade lap, but people decided to come join us.
And did you agree to allow both of your fastest drivers to disqualify themselves over the course of qualifying today? Or was that something that was just spur of the moment? Both of them agreed in private.
That was not on the cards. I looked at that. I was watching the stream at the time just before I left the house. I was like, what are they doing? And I was like, okay, I don't know whether to be impressed or concerned at how far they went up the pit lane before they got disqualified. I was thinking, are they actually going to get disqualified? And then they did. So I was like, you know what? Fair enough to both of them. Getting from one end of the pit lane to the other and onto track and outside the pit entry. I tip my hat to both of them. That's why they're both such top tier drivers.
Well, Ben, it has been a fantastic season for your drivers and for Euro Titans as a team. It has been unmistakable performance from the team. So I think that's all we've really got time for in terms of questions. The calendar reveal is just around the corner. We'll be going back in with two of your recent star drivers. Then Van Velzen, the overall drivers champion, and then Carlos Disch, the rookies champion, for the Season 6 calendar reveal. So that's all we've got time for at the moment, but have a wonderful rest of your evening. It has been such a fantastic hustle from you and the team at Euro Titans. Enjoy this for the run in towards Season 6.
Thank you very much. And from everyone here in Euro Titans, thank you for everything that you have done for the commentary. Thank you to NLRL for everything they've run. We have really enjoyed the season, and I know my drivers, they're all ready to go next season as well as I am.
Well, we'll be waiting for it, and I am thoroughly looking forward to see what you guys can do on championship defense on all fronts, as it would appear.
Damn right, let's go for it. Season 6, let's start it now.
Well, it starts in 2 weeks, but we'll give you the time to prepare.
Sounds about right. Go on then, I'll let him have 2 weeks off.
Right, well, we'll catch you in a bit. All the best to you.
Yep, have a good night.
And you. Well, that was Ben Meredith, the team principal for the Euro Titans Endurance team. So next coming up is the calendar reveal. We're going to go and quickly chime in with both the champions for the run in towards this calendar reveal. Do just give us a moment. So we're on now with both the champions of Season 5 of the NLRL Sunday League on board at the moment with Cas van Veltzen and Carlos Dietsch for the Season 6 calendar reveal. Gents, how are you feeling?
Good. Excited.
And to explain...
Yes, very excited.
Oh, sorry. And to explain how the rules are going to work for this one, so we can see now with the wheel up on screen, the return of the infamous wheel now for its 3rd season deciding calendars. There is the addition now, the Rookie's Choice and Champion's Choice. So, Carlos, you'll have the Rookie's Choice. Cass, you'll have the Champion's Choice. When it lands on that, any of those tracks still available on the wheel, you can pick at whim, and that will go onto the calendar and will come off of the wheel for the next spin around. So, without further ado, let's get this on the road then. So let's just quickly pull up all of this, make sure we've got all the data to hand. And let's get ready on the first spin of the wheel then for the Season 6 calendar. And the first round is in the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps, so not a bad start to the season, all things considered.
Yes. Come on.
Very good track.
Very solid track indeed. So that's a great starting point for the season. So let's see what we get on the next roll. And we're heading to Indianapolis.
Oh,
It's not too bad. It's not too bad. It was one that we were maybe a little worried about being on the calendar, but you know, it's great to have the American races back in. I was hoping for Watkins Glen, but let's see what we get on that third roll. And our third race will be held at Silverstone. That's not too bad,
Very
of
nice.
course. Very good circuit.
sounds good.
We've had a bunch of good races there before, so that's going to be quite exciting to see on the calendar, especially early in the season as well. It's worth pointing that one out, lads. That is going to be an interesting one. Next roll then coming up. And round 4 of Season 6 will be held at... Oh, is it going to tip over the scales? Is it going to? It's going to the Nürburgring. It's going to the Nordschleife. Round 4 of Season 6 will go to the Nordschleife for the first time in this series' history. Oh my goodness, that is... Ooh, that's gonna be a bit of a struggle.
That was my choice if I would have landed on the champion.
Well, now you're going to have to find a different choice. Into the next round, we're going... Oh, this is too good. We're going to Donington, and it could even go to Bathurst. No, we're going to Donington, but still a brilliant round we had this season as well. That'll be round 5 of the championship. Round 6. We've still yet to get either of the choices. I am quite surprised by that. And as I say that, are we getting the Rookie's Choice or are we going to Barca? We're going to Barcelona. That's a pity. We're so close to the Rookie's Choice there. Not too bad at all. I still want to get either of those two choices because, of course, that's part of the reason why you're here. Next round, round 7, will go to Imola. Okay, it's not too bad at the moment. Of course, the wheel giveth and the wheel taketh away. I'm sure there are plenty of races on here that fans at home will be furious to see. Not too bad, as it would stand. Round 8. Oh, don't tell me we're going back. Yes, we're going back to Bathurst. Oh my goodness, what a relief. I was getting so nervous for a while there. We're getting into towards the last couple of rounds. I was like, where's Bathurst? Why is Bathurst not on the calendar? There we go, round 9. Again, I find it quite concerning. We've still yet to get either of the choices. As I say that, it's rookie's choice. So, Carlos, it's over to you.
Oh wow, okay. I'm gonna go Red Bull Ring.
Red Bull Ring. All right, then. Let's go and add that
Good
onto
choice.
the... Very good choice, as a matter of fact. Yes, so the Red Bull
Yeah, it's
Ring
one of my favorite tracks. I love it there.
is round 9. So, right now, as it stands, we've got a 1 in 17 chance here for the champion's choice for round 10. Let's see what we get. The final round, then, of Season 6 of the Sunday League will be going to Monza. So that's I think the first time we've finished a season in Monza since Season 2. It's a pity we couldn't get both the choices there, but nonetheless, there you have it, the calendar for Season 6 of the NLRL Sunday League.
Do we know what is going to be the endurance and the double sprints?
That, I imagine, will be decided by race control. I would definitely say for the Nürburgring one, it's not going to be a double sprint. Yeah, it's a double sprint at Nürburgring. It's like 2 laps per race. Well, what an interesting calendar we have there. Certainly one of the more diverse ones I think we've got in the last couple of seasons. I think we had maybe a little too consistently a nice one there for Season 5. There's certainly a lot of twists and turns in this one. This is going to be quite a serious bit of action to come up for the next 10 weeks from the start of the season in the next few weeks' time. But, gents, what a pleasure it's been to have both of you on for the calendar reveal. It's a pity we couldn't get the champion's choice in there as well, but at least we got 1 or 2 bases covered. But not too bad at all, I'd say, for that calendar. What are your thoughts?
I love it.
I had my first choice in it, so I'm very pleased, very happy. Good calendar.
There's probably only one track that I actually really dislike, which would be Indy, but other than that,
Yeah, same. Other than that, it's I think the
it's
best.
amazing.
Yeah.
Well, that's certainly going to be an interesting run of the season. So we'll wait to see what things are looking like then for Spa. Now, it's also worth considering that that first round is also what's going to decide the upcoming Sunday League special on May 10th. So it'd be interesting to see who shows up for that one. That's going to be testing out the new layout for the races coming in for Season 6. We still don't have all of the information to hand, but in the next couple of weeks, there will be a lot more, I imagine, talk on the new regulations coming in for Season 6. New event formatting coming in as well to replace the standard. So this is going to be very interesting to see. It's been a wonderful pleasure having both of you on for this calendar reveal. And all the power to you for your championship endeavours. It's been great having you guys on. Many thanks to you.
Yes, thank you. Good night.
Thanks a lot.
Take care. So that was both of your champions then, Carlos Deesh and Cas van Veltzen. And there you have it for the Sunday League Season 6 calendar. Spa, Indianapolis, Silverstone, the Nordschleife, Donington, Barcelona, Imola, Bathurst, the Red Bull Ring, and Monza. This is, it's jam-packed for action here. Some of the rounds I'm thoroughly looking forward to, as you may already know. Bathurst and Silverstone being on the calendar once again here for Season 6 is such a joy to see. We've also got Donington back on the calendar after Season 5's run of the track. I think that was the first time we've been to Donington since Season 2, so it has been a long time in the works to see an absolute jewel of the MSV calendar back on for another run of things for Season 6. Now, definitely the most impactful of the bunch there, the first ever visit to the Nordschleife in Sunday League history. It's been a track that's eluded us for the last 6 seasons, but now we'll be finding our way to the Green Hell for round 4. And I do look forward to seeing what comes of that. That'll, of course, be later on in the year, but we've got about 2 weeks now between ourselves and more action from the NLRL Sunday League. The next major event to come out of that will be the Sunday League special. So as we did before, we'll post it back into the Twitch chat. Please do go and sign up for this event. There will be your first opportunity to come and take a look at the new regulations for Season 6, albeit with a bit of a twist. We've got a bit of a wacky races style grid. GT3s, GT4s, GT2s, Cup cars, and M2s all on this grid. Current maximum capacity of 70 available sign-ups. And that will begin in 13 days, 21 hours, the Sunday League special that is now, adjacent to this calendar, confirmed to be heading to the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps. That's all from us here on TRTN. This has been a brilliant, brilliant season, unmistakable for what it has provided us so far. It is a rare thing, indeed, to have a grid like this one, to have drivers like these. As we just quickly update the winners charts just to show you a season wrap up here for the drivers and the overall race wins. And now you've seen history in the making. Hayden Prodger won in round 10 of the championship. The first ever win with Bentley in this season, in this series, as a matter of fact, as history is further defined in. We also got to see the first ever case of a driver leading every round of the championship, Cas van Veltzen, who went on to win this season's Drivers' Championship. Carlos Deesch wins in the Rookies, and Euro Titans wins in the Teams Championship. That's all from us here on TRTN. What a season it's been here on the NLRL Sunday League. An unmistakable show indeed. Thoroughly looking forward now to Season 6's calendar. To give you a reminder of what that's going to be looking like: Spa, Indy, Silverstone, Nordschleife, Donington, Barcelona, Imola, Bathurst, the Red Bull Ring, and Monza. Well, it's always a bit of a hard thing saying goodbye to such a good season, but here we are, the end of the road for Season 5, and that's all from us here on TRTN. And a big thanks to NLRL, a big thanks to our sponsors over at Malwar Transport for sponsoring this series now coming into its 5th season. What a pleasure it's been working alongside these folks here from us on TRTN. That's all from us today. If you're joining us tomorrow, we're back in with more action from Fatch GT, with more races to follow in the coming week from TRC, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, TRC, Competizione Performance League, VSR, and more action therein further down the line. That's all from us here today. Have a wonderful rest of your evening. Take care and good night.